Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Tuesday, February the 4th, Dare County Board of Commissioners meeting. Appreciate your attendance. I'd like to ask the Reverend Gay Morris from the Unitarian Universalist Church to come forward and give us an invocation this morning. Reverend.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And on behalf of the North Dare Ministerial Association, I bring greetings and appreciate the opportunity to lead us all in prayer this morning. So I invite you to join me in a spirit of prayer and reflection. O God of many names, the best of which is love, mover of the compassionate heart and human mind, melder of community. As we give thanks for this day and this assembly, we ask to be inspired by each other's presence. We ask that you be a vital presence in the work of each person here today. Bless, Spirit of life and love, the deliberations of this commission with intentions of righteousness, humility, and public service. Let us keep the face of the holy in our sight when we aim for dialogue, when we aim for justice, when we aim for peace. Today we must heed the call of our own hearts, where love and truth, caring and justice are born. We must heed the call of others, gathering together for some greater purpose, asking for insight in which we see further than our own needs, pet issues, and partisanship that would injure and insult the collaborative work this commission so proudly sees as its abiding strength and its gift to this community. In hearing and considering opinions unlike our own, let us move beyond the barriers we build to cloak our fears. God of many names, move in us as we care for and about this county, that this may more perfectly be a place for all to live and work in safety and loving kindness. Come to our community of many faiths as a voice of conscience and caring. May we help each other to make a reality of the possibilities we dream, to do our best to create the peaceful and trusting community we desire, to practice the truth as we know it, and to serve with wisdom. May we be the ones who make it so. Blessed be. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Reverend Morris. May we stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I'd like to take a minute just to recognize our Representative Hainig that represents us in the House. Representative Hainig, thank you for being here this morning. County Manager.
Mr. Chairman, that leads us to item 1 on the agenda, and that's the chairman's opening remarks.
Thank you, County Manager. I'll be brief this morning, just a few items to go over. January 31st, a Friday afternoon, I had the pleasure of, I serve on the COA Board of Trustees, and we had the opportunity this past Friday to escort Dr. Bagwell, who is the new president of COA, throughout Dare County. We took him to one of our major rental companies in Duck for breakfast, the Twitty Company. From there, we went to the Hilton Garden Inn to meet with some constituents. Then we met at the school administration office with Dr. Farley and his staff. Then we went to the OBX hospital, and we had a great crowd at the Home Builders Association after that. Mike Kelly was gracious enough to host us at Mako Mike's for lunch. And then We went to CSI for him to tour CSI. A lot of our students, Weldon students, partnering with the Ferry Division. We went to the Ferry Division after that and took our students, took him over there to see that our students were partnering with the Ferry Division and the Welding Division. I might add, in this next item, Hatteras Island Annual Oyster Roast at Odin's this past Saturday was exceptional turnout. Our students at COA manufactured some new equipment that they had at the Oyster Roast and over at the Ferry Division and presented those, and the folks on Hatteras Island were able to use those. So it was, and it's all stainless steel stuff. So it's really, really neat to see our students working and learning their craft at the Ferry Division and presenting those to our Hatteras Island folks. Also last evening, we went to Hatteras Island in order to share with them the state of the county, which I presented on January the 15th at Captain George's. Wasn't quite fair to ask all our residents in Hatteras Island to show up here at 8 o'clock in the morning for the state of the county. So we took that down last night. I want to personally thank Natalie Kavanaugh for helping us arrange that, our public information officer, Dorothy Hester. We really had a good turnout. Commissioner Couch and Bateman and the vice chairman, Commissioner House was also there. We had a really, really good turnout. And I want to thank the citizens of Hatteras for showing up and giving us an opportunity to share with them the state of the county. Tonight, tomorrow evening, and Thursday, Vice Chairman Overman and the Savings Lives Task Force have special meetings for at the schools on Hatteras Island this evening. I believe First Flight Middle School tomorrow, and then Manteo Thursday. And it'll be a great meeting. They've been working very, very diligently. They'll have a young man there that certainly well respected, turned his life around. He'll be talking about the vaping that's going on throughout the country and throughout our schools. So I encourage you, if you have the time, to attend one of those. They start at 5:30 and they'll go from 5:30 to 7:30. Tonight it's at Hatteras, and then tomorrow night First Flight, and then Thursday night Manteo. And then finally, last but not least, you may see some of us with these little pins on. Our actual birthday was yesterday, February the 3rd, 1870. We are 150 years young up here. So we'll be celebrating that. We launched our website yesterday. The Public Information Officer has put 150 ways to celebrate Dare County. So hopefully you can check out our website and our webpage to look at that. And to be sure, there's got to be one out of one of those 150 ways to celebrate our birthday. So take advantage of that, if you will. We'll be announcing a few things throughout the year to celebrate that. We do have a major event in May that we'll be giving you some more information on later. But happy birthday, Dare County. None of you look at least over 100 years old. So thank y'all for being here. County Manager.
Yes, sir. That brings us to item 2 on the agenda, and that's the presentation of the county service pins. First on the list, if Donna Spencer, a senior income maintenance caseworker, will come forward to receive her tenure pin from Crystal Ambrose.
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. Thank you for allowing us this opportunity. Donna Spencer began her career at Chowan County Department of Social Services in 2008, where she worked for 2 years. Dare County gained a valuable employee in February 2010 when Donna joined our team. She came with knowledge of the Workforce Family Assistance Program. Donna began her career with our agency in the Food and Nutrition Services Program, and she worked in this program for approximately 2 years, and then transferred into the Adult Medicaid unit, where she has completed applications for special assistance. A couple of years later, Donna promoted to a senior caseworker position. New responsibilities included long-term care. Donna is a top star at our agency. She knows policy and assists clients, medical facilities, and lawyers as they reach out to the agency regarding the specialty programs. Recently, her duties have shifted, and she has become a lead for the unit. With this new responsibility, she is providing support to the staff, completing second-party reviews on Medicaid applications, excuse me, prior to them being approved. She's checking reports to ensure work is completed timely, just to name a few of her duties. She is a true asset to the agency, and the county is fortunate to have her as an employee. Now, on a personal note, Donna has 2 children and a grandchild. She enjoys the beach, and I am pleased to have the honor of presenting Donna with her 10-year pin and look forward to many more years of working with her. So thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Donna.
Next, if Gary Meeks, our detention officer, will come up to receive his 20-year pin from Alan Moran.
Alan, Gary, good morning. How are you guys this morning?
Good morning. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. So today I'm here to recognize, we got 2 long tenured employees at the Sheriff's Office with their dedication at the detention center. With me here today, up here now, is Gary Meeks. Gary's been with the county for 20 years. To put that in perspective, I got thinking, 20 years is a long time, but we really put it in perspective for everyone. 20 years ago, on the top of the Billboard hits was Britney Spears or Ricky Martin. In the state, northeastern North Carolina, we were rebuilding from the effects of Hurricane Floyd and Dennis. Here locally, the Virginia Dare Bridge was still 3 years from opening. These nice buildings we're in today were still several years from opening. We were still doing court, and the admin buildings were downtown Manteo. Folks coming from the west were still coming through the town of Manteo, the old intersection. There was no CVS. We still had a Revco in town. But during all that time and all that building of the county and our community, Gary's been at the jail serving the citizens and serving our residents there, the inmates. Gary's worked his way up through the ranks. He's now a transportation officer. And it has its perks, but it also has its downside. On a Friday night when somebody has to go to Raleigh at 4 o'clock in the afternoon, they're the ones that have to get in the car and make the drive, even though they're supposed to be getting off. So with all that, Gary's also been married, has 2 children, and just started a new phase of his life as a grandfather. So we hope that Gary sticks around with us for a few more years and finish off this phase of his life before he moves on to retirement and greener pastures. So I'd like to thank Gary.
Thank you, Gary, and thank
Alan,
you
if
for your
stay
service.
right there. Next is Eugene Grissom. He's a detention officer as well. He's coming up to receive his 25-year pin.
Good morning, Eugene.
Good morning, sir. So both of these officers, both Officer Meeks and Officer Grissom, are both in transportation. Officer Grissom's been with the county for 25 years. So all that, add 5 more years to it. As long as I can remember, and probably longer than 25 years, Eugene's been a volunteer firefighter over in Mans Harbor. So his dedication to community and service goes far beyond just a job, and it really speaks to how he works and what his mentality is at the job at the detention center. Well, he's there to serve. He's there to make the community and the job better for everybody. He's the first to pitch in and help whether he's asked or not, he's ready to help anybody. He takes on extra duties just because it's something to do. And it's, as a supervisor, you can't ask for something, anyone better than that mentality. And as I was going back and thinking about two of them, Gary and Eugene kind of have a parallel path. They're both been detention officers for a long time, but both married with children, and they both just became grandfathers. So it's, you know, it's interesting to watch, you know, going by. I never noticed how parallel both their lives and both public service and their private lives kind of parallel each other. But to show the mentality, but also how he raises his children. His son's here in the audience. His son is actually following his footsteps and is a correction officer with the state. And so, you know, just to show that mentality and to keep that spirit of public service alive is wonderful to us, but also to the community. So we appreciate you, Eugene.
Thanks, sir.
Congratulations, Eugene.
Next, if Willa Spencer would come up, she's an income maintenance supervisor to receive her 25-year pin from Bonnie Brewery.
Good morning, ladies.
Good morning.
How y'all this morning?
I should just let Willa handle all of this.
Look at here. Willa's saying 5 more years.
She is our motivator at the office, I can tell you, and keeps everybody in an up spirit sometimes when it's difficult. So I asked some of her staff to just give some comments about her. Willa demonstrates commitment and to helping people in our community, to her team and anyone that's in need. She adapts to changes, allowing her to keep moving forward and grow professionally and personally. Willa is compassionate. She is very client-centered. She treats people with dignity, respect, and kindness. Supportive of staff, they feel very connected as a team, and that extends even to other units within our Economic Services Division. She is humble, which is kind of hard to believe sometimes, but she's also got a great sense of humor. She uses that, as I said, to kind of lighten the mood during stressful periods of time. Willa also has been blessed with 2 amazing children, Brandon and Brittany, and 5 grandchildren. So I have had the pleasure of being Willa's supervisor for 24 of her 25 years. And I am very thankful for her support, her spirit, and all the work she does to keep us forward moving as an agency and as a county. Thank you, Willa.
Wow. Thank you, Willa. Congratulations.
Next, if Stacy Ambrose, who's one of our air operations supervisor, would come forward to receive her 30-year pin from Wally Overman. Is she not here?
I think Stacy's here.
All right. That would then take us to item 3 on the agenda, and that's the Employee of the Month, and Tim White's going to make that presentation.
Surprise.
Good morning, Tim.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. This is Shannon Glazer, and this is her husband, Ed. As you can see, he's part of the Sheriff's Department. Shannon is our Friends of Youth manager. She's, unlike Alan's folks, she's only been with us for about 6 months. She's also the manager of our teen court. And just to explain a little bit about the Friends of Youth program, it's a mentoring program whereby Shannon identifies mentors that can go into homes and work with children at risk. And the teen court program is a program whereby children that were arrested for minor offenses such as things as vaping, underage drinking, maybe bullying at one of the schools, they come before their peers in a courtroom session whereby their peers actually do actual trial and sentence them to like community service. I have to do some restitution if there was any damage in their crime and things of that sort. It delights me that Shannon is working with us because she's one of the Dare County homegrown individuals. Shannon graduated from Manteo High School. She then went on to Appalachian State University where she received her undergraduate degree. And then she went on to West Florida where she received her master's degree in education leadership. Now Shannon, as I said, Shannon came on board back in August and she had to fill the shoes of a big-time county employee who started the program, the Friends of Youth, about 30 years ago. And as that was Bonnie Bennett, she was the only one that managed that program for approximately 30 years. But Shannon has filled Bonnie's shoes remarkably. The program hasn't slowed down one bit. Shannon's work ethic is the reason for the program's continued success. Shannon has faced every challenge to date with joy and a desire to succeed. To better explain what she does and how she's performed her job, I want to read one of the nomination forms that she received, if it's all right.
Absolutely.
I am nominating Shannon Glazer for Employee of the Month because she is so deserving of this award. When I unexpectedly became guardian of my 6-year-old grandson, I investigated every area of assistance I could find to benefit both of us, but mostly my grandson. I reached out to Shannon via email through the county directory. She responded immediately and encouraged me to submit an application for my grandson as soon as he turned 6 on December 5th, 2019. I submitted this paperwork and she has been in touch ever since. She contacted an excellent candidate to be my grandson's mentor, and Shannon has been instrumental in encouraging him to follow up with his application to become my grandson's mentor. She has also enlisted the help of her husband, who is a colleague of this friend. Shannon came to our house one evening after work and school to interview my grandson and to get a feel for who he is. My grandson was so comfortable with her, he didn't want her to leave and has repeatedly asked for her when she was coming back to talk to him. She was friendly, engaging, and interested in him. My grandson is on a Parks and Rec basketball team, and Shannon and her husband came to see him play his first game. They had no reason to be in the gym except to watch my grandson's game. They also brought him pizza that had belonged to one of their children because she remembered Roman, my grandson, telling her how much he enjoyed pizzas. Last weekend, Shannon's husband, Ed, a Dare County Sheriff's deputy, came to our house to let my grandson check out his patrol car, try the lights, and examine this equipment. Roman couldn't have been more excited. If not for Shannon, this never would have taken place. Just this morning, Shannon emailed me to let me know of some scholarship opportunities she has available at summer camps at Jeanette's Pier and the Aquarium. I'm looking forward to continued help from Shannon and her friendship. So is my grandson. Shannon is a wonderful asset to Dare County and should receive the Employee of the Month. It is things like this that make Shannon the person that she is. When we interviewed Shannon for the job, there was a part of the interview where she explained one of the situations that she had in her classroom while she was working in Florida at one of the special needs schools. And I'm going to kind of put her on the spot here. And it's a sample of who she is and what she can do. And I would like for her to explain that situation to you so you can see what kind of a wonderful person this Shannon is. The one about the kid who couldn't eat or was hungry.
Oh. Well, I was a special ed teacher for 16 years in Florida. and so I kind of did not go into the line of education when I got out of college. I didn't quite know what I wanted to do, so I went into a school to work as a teacher assistant. And within 6 months, the teacher I was with quit. And they said, well, you have a degree, so it's time for you to kind of step up and help take over this classroom. So I did, and I think my mom was terrified. What is she doing? What's she getting herself into? But this school, these kids, they were fighting, they were arguing, they were throwing things. We were sitting at the doors, keeping them in the classroom, just trying to figure out how to get them, to reach them. And I had one little boy that would come in, and he would just stare at my desk. I ate with my kids. I wanted to be with them at all times. He would just stare at the desk, at the food. Every now and then it would be missing. You know, I knew he was taking it. He was hungry. And so I would keep putting more food on the desk. You know, I'd have more drinks there. You know, they would just start disappearing. I wasn't angry. He was hungry. And so this went on for quite a while, and, you know, we started working on things, and he started communicating with me, and he would write down things on the blackboard. He would write the name of what I had. And so that's how we started learning how to read. He would write it down. We learned the words, we learned the sounds, but he stopped being hungry, so he was able to learn. So that's
Amazing story.
I just wanted to share that with you. When we, like I said, when we interviewed Shannon for this job, that's what sold me on the person that she is. I can't say enough nice things about her. She's taken on a position that was run to the best of its ability, and she's just taking it and taking it to another level. So because of those things and what you just heard that she's been through, that's the reason why you're Employee of the Month, so congratulations.
Just remarkable the talent that we have working for us as employees for Dare County. Congratulations, Shannon.
Shannon, I could not agree more. I work with you on the Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. I could not agree more. Congratulations.
Before we go to item 4, those of you who just received awards, if you'll go right out through this door, please, and Beth will get a picture. So we'll wait just a second for the room to clear. Ladies and gentlemen, now's the time that's been set aside for public comment. If you have public comment this morning, if you have not signed up, raise your hand. I'll recognize you in a minute. When I do, please come to the podium, state your name and where you're from. Please limit your comments to 5 minutes. There's a green light on the podium that'll tell you when your time begins. There's a yellow light that comes on when you have about a minute left. And when the red light comes on, please conclude your remarks. We have quite a few people signed up, so we might be a little stricter maybe than we normally are with the time. So really, when the red light comes on, please conclude your remarks. With that said, the first person on the list is Bobby Haney.
Welcome this morning, Representative Haney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. My name is Bobby Hannick. I live at 102 Orchard Lane, Palace Point. I appreciate y'all taking the time to listen to my comments and for all these folks to come out here and voice their concerns and their comments as well. This morning I stand before you as a citizen and as your state representative. I want to commend you all for considering this resolution and for listening to your constituents and your community leaders like myself. The Second Amendment to the U.S. Constitution provides that a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The North Carolina Constitution states the same. It's pretty black and white, folks. I remind you that despite how some may portray this today, as we stand here today, this is not for hunting. This is not for recreation. This is about our God-given right to defend ourselves against a tyrannical government. Plain and simple. I strongly urge you to stand with me and your citizens to send a message that we will ensure our citizens the rights protected under the Second Amendment of the Constitution of the United States. As your state representative, I will stand with you to oppose any assault on this God-given right. God bless Dare County. God bless the great state of North Carolina. And God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
Next is Rich Lewandowski.
Welcome, Mr. Am I pronouncing this Lewandowski?
Lewandowski, yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you for having us on here. I am, as you just heard, Rich Lewandowski. I'm president of the Outer Banks Gun Club, a club of 1,386 members, the vast majority of whom are from Dare County. We are a family-oriented organization, supports youth shooting sports, and offer a number of classes on firearm safety. Everything that Mr. Hannock said is, I'm not going to reiterate that, but I will say that we support the U.S. Constitution, particularly the Second Amendment. We strongly support the Commissioner Overman's resolution to keep and bear arms as outlined in the Second Amendment. That's all I've got for you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Next is Rob Rollison.
Good morning, Rob. How are you this morning?
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. I'm doing well. I hope you are. Rob Rollison, 706 7th Avenue, Cordova Hills. Good morning, Mr. Chairman and members of the board. At the last meeting, I submitted a draft resolution supporting the Second Amendment. I would like to thank Commissioner Ross for his counsel following this session and thank Commissioner Overman for his proposed resolution. I have the fullest confidence that the board will support the resolution on this morning's agenda. I will say thank you in advance. An affirmation of the U.S. Constitution and its amendments contained therein is a sensible course of action. No legislative body, executive office, or court is above the U.S. Constitution. Our Constitution is a contract between we the people and the government that it established. Anytime we compromise on that sacred agreement by allowing our rights to be weakened, the authority and power of government grows at the cost of liberty. Thank you for taking a stand in the name of freedom.
Thank you.
Next is Susan Merrill.
Welcome, Ms. Merrill.
Thank you. Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Susan Merrill, and I'm a resident of Kitty Hawk. I'm here today concerned about the pending resolution regarding the Second Amendment. What exactly does this resolution mean? Is it just an attempt to stir the pot about gun control, since no local jurisdiction is permitted to supersede state or federal law? Does it mean to remind our citizens that the Constitution is sacrosanct, in which case will we be hearing resolutions supporting the rest of the Bill of Rights and amendments to the Constitution? Or does it intend to set us up down the road should more comprehensive gun control measures be passed on a state or national level to hunker down and defend ourselves against the liberals who are coming to get our guns? Somehow, I believe it is a combination of the three, with a definite emphasis being on the last. I ask you, though, is this the way we want our community to be labeled? We're a tourist-based community and a tourist-based economy. Should this be part of our Outer Banks Visitor Bureau highlights? Come to the Outer Banks, where we have beautiful beaches, great seafood, and guns. Is this really what we want? I will be in attendance through this meeting and hope to hear the answers to my questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Charles Parker.
Welcome this morning, Mr. Parker.
All right, thank you. My name is Charlie Parker. I live in Kill Devil Hills. I read the Second Amendment resolution and came today to share with you my concerns about it. What benefit will be derived from this resolution by the people of Dare County? What will be the downside? I have friends and neighbors with very different ideas and opinions about the Second Amendment. We do have discussions and agree on some points and disagree on others. We do it with civility. As Mr. Overman noted, all of this is coming from what happened in Virginia. It appears to me this resolution will fan the flames of incivility and polarize discussion here in Dare County. It's my opinion as a citizen of the county that this is not a topic suitable to be addressed by our legislature. I ask you to vote it down. We have many more important issues to deal with, drugs, etc., that I don't think this is the arena to have that resolution. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next is it Judy Latus?
Welcome, Ms. Lass.
Good morning, Judy Lotus, Lotas. Can't read my writing, I think. I live in Duck, and maybe I'm an outlier, but when I think of every person in this room is 25 times more likely to die of a gunshot than people living in Canada, or in the UK, or in France, or in Germany. It's just terrible. It's sad. My grandson has to go through all these duck and dive things that they do in school in case somebody comes in to murder them. I believe so hardly that rather than always being on the defensive, I mean, that thing we have to walk through out there, what, because we're carrying guns or something? It's not right. It's not our country. And I feel like if we could be more in the offensive rather than the defensive and pass some laws that make sense. That's all we're after, common sense laws that protect people. Thank you very much. Please vote. That resolution has no business here.
Thank you, Ms. Lotus.
Next is Tony Hoggard.
Welcome, Mr. Hargan.
Good morning. My name is Tony Hart. I'm a resident of Kitty Hawk. Mr. Hannig, Mr. Rollison really have just hit it on the head exactly. I'm not going to stand up there and basically give their speeches all over again. I am a Second Amendment supporter. I'm a supporter of the entire Constitution, and I 100% support a resolution to become a sanctuary. Not only I know you as a Second Amendment, the entire Constitution. If one amendment's under attack, when's the next one? When are they going to go after the first? When are they going to go after the fifth? It's just the way this country is going, and you can't, this is not the way that the Founding Fathers wanted it, okay? So I'm 100% in support of it, and I can guarantee you if you took a poll of this entire county, you would find the vast majority are going to be in support of this sanctuary amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Next is Brownie Douglas.
Welcome this morning, Brownie.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, Commissioners. I'm a resident of Roanoke Island and a proud remnant son of the American Revolution. Unarguably, as it has been before and since the ratification of our Constitution, we the people are experiencing trying times. I quote a penning of Thomas Paine: "The most formidable weapon against errors of any kind is reason." I want to repeat that. The most formidable weapon against errors of any kind is reason. Clearly, Mr. Paine was speaking of one of God's many gifts to all of mankind, that being the ability to correctly reason right from wrong. The resolution put forth here today in no way alters the actual wording or affronts the protective intentions of the Constitution. It is my opinion that if the Dare County Board of Commissioners votes to express its support for the Constitution of the United States, and in particular, the Second Amendment, that this Board of Commissioners will have unequivocally exercised correct reasoning. Thank you for taking a proactive and patriotic stand to forever protect liberty and freedom for all.
Thank you, sir.
Next is Harold Parker.
Welcome, Mr. Parker.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to speak. It's one of the great parts of America. My name is Harold Parker. I'm a resident of Roanoke Island. I'm in support of the resolution. I wish it went further. I would like to see a sanctuary wording in it. I understand that there was concern that that sanctuary wording carried negative connotations, I believe was what I read online. I would argue that we should be giving our law enforcement cover, backing, support as we declare this sanctuary, because they are sworn to enforce the law. They are also have taken an oath to protect and defend the Constitution. So you have a problem when a law is passed that is unconstitutional. What do? What are they going to do? We need to back them up on that, because the Bill of Rights does not belong to politicians. Its privileges only to be doled out as they see fit. It belongs to us, the people. The Second Amendment is ours. And we need to recognize the reality. 43% of households have firearms, 36,000 people in Dare County. That's 15,500 households, 7,000 of them extrapolated would be armed, minimum. North Carolina has 10.5 million people, extrapolating that, 4.5 million households, 2 million of them with firearms. Yes, some of this was brought on by what's happening in Virginia, but Virginia is just the latest. The laws they're proposing there will turn almost 2 million Virginians into felons, not misdemeanors, felons, people losing their security clearances, all the rights that you lose when you're a felon. This is wrong. Compliance will not happen. In Connecticut, when they announced registration requirements, the non-compliance rate was 85%. The magazine ban, the non-compliance rate was 96%. In New York State, 1 million guns were subject to registration, only 44,000 were registered, a 4.4% compliance rate. California, 300,000, only 7,000 were registered, a 2.5% compliance rate. Canada had a non-compliance rate of over 70%. In New Mexico, 29 of 33 counties vowed non-enforcement. The resolutions were submitted by the sheriffs themselves. New Jersey enacted a magazine ban. You could turn them in to the police if you wanted to get rid of them. The compliance rate was 0. Not one was submitted. Washington State, majority of sheriffs and police chiefs asked county councils to declare sanctuary resolutions and have declared they will not enforce unconstitutional gun laws. In Colorado, 52 out of 54 sheriffs signed a letter refusing to support recently passed gun laws. In Virginia, 136 counties, cities, and towns have passed sanctuary and constitutional resolutions supporting the Second Amendment. That is 92% of all the towns, cities, and counties in Virginia. These meetings were attended by 600 to 2,000 people. They were held at night and given plenty of notice, and the outpouring of support was outstanding. I attended the Virginia rally to see for myself what was going on. And the first thing I'll say, it was probably underrepresented. It was a lot more than 22,000 people. I would put it at 50,000 plus. No violence, no white nationalists. people supporting their rights. But the biggest chant of the day was, "We will not comply." So these are not threats. These are not projections. This is what is happening today in America. People have said, no, we are not going to accept unconstitutional restrictions on our Bill of Rights. It belongs to us, and the politicians will not be obeyed if they come out with laws that are contrary to our rights. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Parker.
Next is Ada Hobble.
Welcome this morning.
Good morning, gentlemen. Good morning. My name is Aida Doss Havel, and I live in Salvo. If you pass this resolution, what message will you be sending? I have been a licensed attorney in North Carolina for 35 years. In that time, I've represented dozens of women who are survivors of domestic violence and stalking. I've been involved in a case where gun violence left 2 children orphaned. I'd like to share with you some troubling statistics from the Giffords Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence. First, 600 women per year are shot and killed by an intimate partner. That's 1 every 16 hours. 2, 4.5 million women in the U.S. have been threatened with a gun by an intimate partner, and almost 1 million have survived being shot by an intimate partner. 3, the presence of a gun in a domestic violence situation makes it 5 times more likely that an abused woman will die. Do you really want to tell these women that your support for the Second Amendment is so absolute that no reasonable restriction can be put on it? Are you willing to look them in the eye and tell them that you support an absolute right to purchase and own any size and number of firearms without restriction? It is easy to make proclamations, but much more difficult to make sure all voices are heard and that everyone has a seat at the table. What kind of message are you sending to the women of Dare County, none of whom are sitting up there? I urge you to vote nay on this resolution and to focus on issues that really need your attention rather than issues that are divisive and posturing in an election year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is David Morris.
Good morning, David.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, commissioners, fellow citizens. I am David Morris. I'm a resident of 126 The Dogwoods here in Manteo, and I have had the privilege to stand in this place on other occasions for other purposes. I want to make sure that I have said that I am here today representing not my congregation or the North Dare Ministerial Association, but myself as a citizen and resident of this county. And I am here to speak against this resolution. I want to call to mind that at your first chairman's remarks of this year, Chairman Woodard, you said eloquently and passionately that this county's commission has been strong because we have avoided partisan difference, because we have worked across political lines. I've been a resident only for 5 years of Dare County, and I can tell you, having lived in Contra Costa County in California, Albemarle County in Virginia, and a lot of other places, that is not always true. It's an extraordinary gift to live in a county where people work across partisan lines and focus on the things that matter most to the lives of the people in that county. I note the rest of the agenda and the difference between this resolution and the other resolutions on the agenda, which is that The other business on this agenda is about this county and the things that matter to the lives of individuals in this county. And at the top of this agenda, it says, how will these decisions impact our children and families? It has been an extraordinary gift to witness how focused on that reality this county commission has been for a long time, probably long before I got here. And I hope that it continues to be that way long into the future. I fear that this resolution in support of the Constitution of the United States of America, seemingly innocuous in its wording, is not bipartisan in that way. There is no current credible threat to the Constitution whatsoever in terms of the Second Amendment. There is no national legislator who is bringing forward proposals to amend the Constitution, although that possibility exists. There is no credible effort to remove the Second Amendment from the Constitution. If laws are passed under our Constitution which are unconstitutional, the Constitution itself provides provisions to change those laws and to reject them. There is no fear of unconstitutional laws taking away people's rights. There is instead, sadly, one party's choice to use this issue to drive voter turnout, to make people anxious, and to cause division in communities. That's the kind of division that we have avoided in this county, and I hope that we can continue to avoid that division. I would note that the rhetoric on this issue, even this morning, indicates that there is no way to open this topic without moving down a road of partisan division and dividing us into political parties instead of individuals and community members seeking to do the best for our children and families here. And I ask you please to reject this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend Moore.
Tom Murphy. Tom?
Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. My name is Tom Murphy. I have lived in Rodanthe since 1986. I feel like I'm a longtime resident of Hatteras Island and of this county. I speak against this resolution, but in a funny sort of way, I'm grateful that it came up because it had me yesterday afternoon reading the Constitution. How many have read it in the last few days or weeks? It's worth doing, folks. There's good stuff there. There's also salutary to be reminded that it has blind spots. There are 17 amendments that the founders did not put there. Some of them correct blind spots that were there when the Constitution was written. For example, it was almost 90 years later that we decided that black people could vote. It was 50 years after that that we decided women could vote. Where are our blind spots now? I do not know, because they are blind spots. But they are there somewhere, and we need to approach this kind of discussion with a little bit of humility, a little bit of sense that, we could be wrong about this because we have been wrong before and we will be wrong again. Now, let me speak directly to the resolution. I applaud those who oppose it. I think it's misnamed, and I kind of resent the name. It really is not a resolution in support of the Constitution, is it? It's a resolution in support of a certain interpretation of Amendment 2. And the implication seems to be that if you oppose that interpretation of the Second Amendment, you therefore are against the Constitution. That poisons the debate. I want to affirm I support the Constitution, but I think there is room for discussion on the issue of how to interpret and implement the Second Amendment. My second concern has been reflected earlier too, and that is, y'all, why do this? What's the point? Is the point election year? I mean, is that it? Is it an appeal to a base? I don't know. Who's better off if this resolution passes? What problem do we have that this resolution will solve? There is no gain here, folks. Nobody is better off. Nobody is smarter. Nobody is safer. Nobody is wiser. Nobody is more secure in their property or their people or their person. And we could have a very lively debate about whether the Second Amendment is more important than the First. Now, it has been said earlier that the Second Amendment is there to protect us against tyranny. I want to say out loud, I don't think tyrants are afraid of guns. I think tyrants are afraid of what's happening in this room right now. This is precious stuff going on right now. Free people are standing up in broad daylight, out loud, in public, with the press in the room, addressing their government on controversial issues without fear that the next footsteps on my porch will be the jackboots who come to take me away. This is precious stuff. This freedom for people to stand up and address their government is really, really important. And if we lose that, who cares whether we have guns or not? There's probably more I should say. I hope you will vote against this. If you have a concern, it occurs to me there might be something that could be done. I don't think anything is ever gained by giving simple answers to complicated questions. It's a complicated issue, and it does not submit itself well to simple answers. If you really want to do something about this issue, assemble a study committee to do a series of public hearings or public discussions or public debates. I hear you, Bobby. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. We do have quite a few folks.
There may be better ways to deal with it than simply passing this resolution. Thank you all, and I apologize for going over.
Next is Laura Singletary.
Welcome, Ms. Singletary.
Good morning, commissioners, ladies. Thank you all so much for our opportunity to speak. I'm here also to speak against the resolution, and I wonder, why is it needed? My home, there are guns in my home. I believe in the Constitution. I pledge allegiance to the flag, but I think this is a very divisive issue, and I like what the gentleman just said. Why do we need this? What are you doing? You didn't pass resolutions that some Christian children, youth wanted, but you want to pass this resolution, and you can just see from the comments that people are wondering, what's this about? A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. Is that our National Guard? Is that our State Guard? Or is that toting guys back here? It shall not be infringed. We all know in the Heller decision that back in 2008 when things really changed. And I'd like to quote from Judge Scalia. Like most rights, the Second Amendment right is not unlimited. It is not a right to keep and carry any weapon whatsoever in any manner whatsoever and for whatsoever purpose. Common sense gun laws are not an assault on our Constitution. And I think that America has so many more guns than any other country. We know that. 175,000 Americans are shot each year, shot dead. The suicide, if people choose to use a gun, if they can get their hands on a gun, they're successful. Aida spoke to domestic violence. Judy said, Americans are 25 times more likely to be killed by a gun than people in other developed nations. My grandson going to school, oh my goodness. We did duck and cover, but what are these children, the stress that they're under because of guns so prevalent in our school? I strongly urge you to vote against this resolution. And in conclusion, I'd like to say, everywhere we look, gun violence is decimating our families and communities, whether it's the mass shootings in shopping malls, concerts in schools, or in places of worship. I don't think it'll ever happen here. Not here. This is such a beautiful community, and we're so loving, and it's a small town community. And I don't think that we need this resolution. It makes no sense to me, and I don't understand why y'all would put this on our community. So thank you so much for your time, and I urge you to vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Singletary.
Next is Catherine Fagan.
County Manager, repeat her name, please.
Catherine Fagan.
Welcome, Ms. Fagan.
Thank you. Yeah, my name's Catherine Fagan. I live on Roanoke Island, and I'm a patriot. I believe in the Constitution. I don't think there's anybody out here who does not support the Constitution. We are all Americans, and putting this resolution before the people like this is divisive. I am totally humbled by the two older gentlemen that spoke before me. The young man here and I'm sorry, I'm bad with names, but the two of them, absolutely. There is nothing to be gained from this except further division, and we don't need that. We need to come together as a people. I mean, whether or not you think the Second Amendment is the most important amendment, I bet you people of color would think maybe the 13th Amendment is the most important amendment, which abolishes slavery. Then there are people who will think that the 19th Amendment, giving women the right to vote, is the most important amendment. Then there are those who are going to say, you know what, and actually the man in the yellow jacket before me said it so well. The First Amendment may be the most important amendment because that is what brings us here today. It is the right of assembly. It is the right to approach our government. It is the right to a free press. So we have Miss Mary here. She is covering this for the other citizens who are not here today. And when we all come together and make decisions, we can address the people who make our laws. But this is not going to be an issue. You know, there are horrible statistics with regard to guns, and I can go, I could talk to you about either one. I can debate almost any subject. So we could cover that. But why? Why are we covering it at all? Are we here to debate the 19th Amendment? No. I think we should pass a resolution saying the right to women, for women to vote is the most critical thing because they're 51% of the population and they ought to have a vote. But really, is that necessary? It's not necessary. And it can be divisive. And the whole thing with guns is divisive. It's a political ploy to take us down that road. It is not a road we need to go down. We all support the Constitution. We all support this country. We are all patriots whether we wear red or blue. We may disagree on how to get to where we want to be, but we are all Americans. And this is the divisive issue. It will tear us apart. Let's leave it alone. Let's go back to worrying about the Alligator River Bridge. That's an important issue. I go across that bridge all the time. Many of us do. That's what we need to be concerned about as a community, not whether or not we want to argue with either national gun laws or state gun laws. That's an argument for another place, not here. And we need to be together as a community. This is one of the warmest communities I've ever lived in, and I've lived here since 2005. And when my house burned down, this community came together to help me. That's the kind of community we want. I don't want somebody coming and fighting over whether they can carry their gun or not. And I thank you for being nonpartisan, and I appreciate my constitutional right to address you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Nellie Healy.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Nellie Healy, and I've been a resident of the Outer Banks for 26 years. I've come here today to remind you that you represent the people, and as such, should hear what we, the people, have on our minds. I understand that Mr. Overman wants to introduce a resolution today that he's supporting the Constitution of the United States, with emphasis on the Second Amendment. I find his timing ironic and wonder if he is aware that February 1 through 8 is National Gun Violence Survivors Week. And I will share with you lives forever changed by gun violence. Those stories honor those who have felt the impact of gun violence in their communities. You know, those folks who we send our thoughts and prayers to on a seemingly continuous basis. Let's begin with domestic violence. Women whose husband has a gun that he buys for $25 at a bar, shoots her, and it takes her 25 years to even talk about it because of her fear and shame. Let's talk about the dad, the mom, the teenager in our community who struggle with mental illness and commit suicide with a gun. Let's talk about the family that loses a child, a father, a mother, a friend at a church function, at a movie theater, at a festival, or a mall. You can't even shop at a mall without sitting around and worrying whether someone's going to get up there and shoot you because you have irresponsibly incited them in the back of their minds that somehow their constitutional amendment is being challenged. Shame. Leave it alone. Or the empty home that has lost a child to senseless street violence, like I saw in the South Bronx for 30 years, okay? Or a drive-by shooting. You see, you don't care about those people. They don't matter to you because that's somewhere out there. But we're here in a community that we've established and love and care about. And you're not bringing this crap here, Mr. Overman. Leave it alone. We have a community of survivors that post on Facebook on Moments to Survive, and I have to read that about people losing their children, their husbands, their wives, because someone wants to be Mr. Macho Man and carry his gun in public? Will I have to go to Walmart cringing? Who are we as a people? Tell me. You, gentlemen, tell me who we are as a people. Are we peace-loving? Do we want to walk beside our neighbor, white, black, or any color? Do we want to live in peace and harmony? Do we want to, as someone once said to me, all I want to do is go to work and bring my paycheck home and live in peace. That's what I want to see in our community. This is nonsense. And the gentleman who spoke for us spoke well. Leave it alone. No one's messing with your Second Amendment rights. No one's messing with any of the rights on the Constitution. And like he said, sometimes we get it wrong, but most of the time we get it right. And when you stand here and you're able to speak at all, be grateful. But when you speak from knowing what you're talking about and understanding the Constitution, not just using it as a ploy and a toy. Thank you, gentlemen. And let me take this opportunity, because I don't get to come here often, about what you should be worried about. How about the environment? Because we have people that are going to be bombing off our shores and we won't even have an economy. How about affordable housing for the workers that come here that you disdain? You know, the people who clean our toilets and the ones who work in our kitchens. How about roads and bridges so that we can go about our business as we need to and go to work and not have to go down to Okokoke and send charity work? Huh? Where's our government there? How about the opioid crisis? I saw entire communities in New York destroyed by that. Are we going to let our community be destroyed by that? As a woman and a mother, it strikes me to see on a daily basis on TV, my people, my Americans being gunned down. So I'm going to be bold, very bold today, and let you know that in no uncertain terms, it's my right to feel safe as I go about my daily business. And it's my right not to have to worry about weapons on a daily basis. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is DeRosa McKeithen.
Vote against the resolution.
Welcome.
Good morning, commissioners and everybody. I'm Roisin McKeithen, a resident of Duck. I'm a family physician, and I'm here to speak about a public health crisis, and that is the public health crisis of gun violence. There aren't that many sort of national statistics, but there are medical statistics because we do track these things. These come from emergency rooms, from coroner's officers, from the CDC. And they are very consistent. There has been a steady rise in deaths due to gun violence over the last few decades. And in the last few years, it has been consistent. The deaths in the statistics that I have researched are 40,000 deaths every year, approximately, from gun violence. 40,000 Americans die every year from gun violence. That's approximately 110 every day. Now, these deaths, it doesn't track whether this is the death of the owner of the gun or who purchased the gun or if it was taken by a family member or stolen. These are not deaths due to invasion or intrusion. Of these 40,000 deaths, consistently 60,000 are suicides. 60% are suicides. 37% are murders. That leaves 3%, which is accidental, related to law enforcement, or some not classified. 60% suicide, 37% murder. We speak here a lot about rights and privileges. We guard those carefully. With rights go responsibilities. If it's an individual right, we have our own responsibility to take care of that. If our rights affect other people, those responsibilities also require regulations to protect our rights, protect our safety, and enforce those responsibilities where necessary. I'd like to touch on another public health concern. I don't own a firearm, but I do own a lethal weapon. I drive my car every day. Cars and other vehicles are not designed to kill people, but they do. A bicycle, kind of like a musket, one person may die on a bicycle. I just have a private car, will save 5 people. There are regulations about that car. I have to have a title for that car. It is taxed. I have to have a driving license to show that I'm capable of driving using that vehicle properly. If I drive off a cliff, I take 5 people with me. If in a larger vehicle, there are greater rights to transport people in a bus. There are therefore greater responsibilities and greater regulations for the owning and operation of a bus. For a plane that has a much greater capacity, there are a whole other layer of rights, responsibilities, and regulations. There weren't any cars or such vehicles back in 1791 when the Second Amendment was written. We, as a rational people, have regulations, laws that evolve to suit the time. It is my hope, my expectation, that my elected representatives will be concerned with sensible regulations that protect the rights and safety of my family, my community, my country. These regulations to evolve for the realities of the 21st century and not merely enshrine those written for the fears of a young country in the 18th century. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Jenny Rook.
Welcome.
Good morning, Jenny Rook, Killable Hills. Of course, today, like everyone else, my comments are in response to the resolution. I'm a gun owner. My husband's a gun owner. Not going to tell you how many we have, but in fact, my husband's name is on the base of the flagpole at the gun club as one of the 10 founders. So clearly, I am not anti-gun. But what really concerns me is the terminology of opposing any and all attempts to infringe upon these rights. I say I'm not anti-gun. I probably should be. My college roommate's ex-husband killed her and killed himself, and he had a history of abuse. High school friends, father corralled fast food folks into a cooler and shot them all. I mean, that's enough to make somebody anti-gun, but I'm not. But what concerns me is that wording of, again, some of the common sense things that can be addressed in legislation. And I know while this is taking place other places, admittedly, this was in response to what was going on in Virginia. So if I ask each one of you individually how you would feel about being able to prevent a death of a school child or someone going into a movie theater or enjoying an afternoon at a restaurant or a college student or going to the movies, I'm sure you'd all say, yes, if I had that opportunity, I would love to save a life. Or how would you feel if you knew your actions had a direct impact on somebody losing their life? And so the things that I want to address are, this is what's in the Virginia stuff. I mean, there's nothing in there about taking your AK-47s or things like that. It's things like a background check. Do you think if I want to buy a gun, I could give a rip about getting a background check? I want the gun. I'm not going to do anything hurtful with it. Why would I oppose that? Or transferring a gun. If somebody came today and a law was imposed and said, you're going to have to register all your guns, why would I care? I mean, I'm going to use them responsibly. Why would I care? I'm not foolish enough to think that any of these laws are going to protect criminals who are obtaining their guns other ways. That's not what this is about. Another bill would prohibit someone who has a permanent protective order from owning a gun. I mean, really? You're trying to prevent people who have been in abusive relationships that have the potential to harm someone again? That's a bad thing, to keep them from owning a gun? Red flag laws. I mean, I'm a retired educator who is going back and doing other things within the school system. I mean, I've seen the red flags. This, and I'll leave this for you. This is information about just mass shootings. I'm not talking about the people who bought a handgun somewhere, you know, in a back alley. I'm talking about just the mass shootings. Those other statistics other people have addressed. The yellow columns are, were the guns obtained legally, and were there red flags for mental illness? I mean, there's yes all the way down these things. Why would you say you're going to oppose any and all attempts to infringe upon these rights? I mean, I do not understand that. The bills passed didn't include anything on assault weapons. We've been hearing for years someone's going to take your guns. No one's trying to take my gun. And like everybody else, I think doing this is inflammatory. And I think it's not a good move for our county. And like somebody else said, you know, you buckle up your children, you put their bike helmets on them, and that's not infringing a right. But really, somebody made a law that said you have to wear a helmet, you have to insure your car, you have to wear your seatbelts, and nobody had a problem with that. Motorcyclists in most states have to put on a helmet, and it's to protect them. So these are not things that the things that are proposed even in the state of Virginia and many other places are not trying to take away a gun. They're measures designed to prevent unnecessary deaths. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's everyone who has signed up. Would anyone else like to speak? Yes, sir. Come forward. Please state your name and where you're from.
Good morning. My name is Randy Knight. I live in Manteo. I am in favor of this resolution. I've heard a lot of people talk about stats up here. One stat they didn't is how many crimes are stopped or thwarted by a firearm. Between 1.5 and 3 million per year. I've heard a lot about laws. We have 40,000 plus laws on the books about firearm. We have background checks. Those are already in place. It only takes weak politicians or politicians that have an end game in mind to come in and use the words common sense and things like that and take away your rights. And it is a right. In the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, it is the second one because the founders saw that as one of the most important ones. Whether you like it or not, the Second Amendment is the protector of the First, Third, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, Seventh, Eighth, Ninth, and 10th Bill of Rights. This comes from natural law that you are allowed to protect yourself, your family, and your property. And I've heard a lot of things about cars and bicycles and motorcyclists. A car and motorcycles and all motor vehicles are privileges. It is not a right to have one. It is a right to have a firearm. And once, like I said, you have politicians that are just worried about being reelected and bend to the will of the minority, will come a time when they will say, oh, well, let's get them registered. You need a license. You need this. Well, guess what was used, the first thing with it, that they went to go collect all the firearms against the tyrants in history. They went to the registration. So they knew exactly where and who had the firearm that would stand up against them. Stalin, Pol Pot, Chavez, a lot had done it. Now, this resolution is not saying that, well, that I can understand, that we will become a sanctuary state or county or whatever. It's just saying that we acknowledge that this may happen and that we will not go along so easily. So I am wholeheartedly for this. My wife is a rape survivor, and she has a concealed carry. Women who are being abused. I wholeheartedly support them having a firearm and protecting themselves. All these shootings that have been done in the last year or two, you can follow the history back of that person, and you can see where the government has failed them by not reporting them to the database, on the federal database that the background checks go through. That guy that was in the Air Force and he used his firearm for something incredibly horrible. He was kicked out of the Air Force because of spousal abuse and other crimes. The Air Force and federal government didn't report him to the database. If you go back, you will see that things weren't followed up on. There is a background check. I have to go through one every time that I purchase a firearm. So this is not something that's going to, I don't believe, separate us as a community or down party line or anything else. It's just saying that, yes, we believe that the Second Amendment is sacrosanct as the Constitution and the Bill of Rights is. That's all. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Morning. My name's Regina Gibson, and I'm a resident of Kill Devil Hills, and I'm sorry I don't have anything prepared. But I wanted to speak to show that there is a bi-gender support for this resolution. I am a Second Amendment defender, and I firmly believe in what you are doing and hope that you will vote in favor of this resolution. It is very divisive. It is. I mean, there's people who want more gun control, and there's people who want less gun control, and there's people who want to defend their constitutional right to own guns. I don't own a gun. I will never own a gun. Guns scare me, but I'm more afraid of losing my Second Amendment right or First Amendment right or any right. And I think the framers of the Constitution were geniuses in many, many ways, and this being one of them. I see what's happening. I fled Virginia. I mean, I'm a permanent resident of North Carolina now, and I am speechless as to what's going on in Virginia. If you want to see divisiveness, go to Virginia. People woke up this morning, excuse me. People woke up in early January not knowing what they were faced with. They were faced with legislators who started throwing handfuls of bills taking away First Amendment rights, Second Amendment rights. I'm just floored that anyone would have any problem with this resolution. I understand there's, you know, I think I have to applaud this group's planned. I mean, I got to applaud you. Y'all came together, and that's great. But you have to look at your constituents, not just who's sitting here today. You have to look at your constituents and decide, do they want this resolution? Do they want more gun control? And we can go down the slippery slope of more gun control and see what's happening in Virginia. And I think we have plenty of regulations now. We ought to enforce them. We have plenty of regulations that are supposed to protect the citizens against criminals. We ought to enforce them and not release, you know, people who have violent backgrounds or who, you know, who have illegal, you know, records. I don't know. I'm in favor of this resolution. I'm a 2A proponent, and I just hope and pray that what's happening in Virginia does not happen in this state. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Blake Gard. I am the chaplain and administrative secretary over the Mans Harbor Volunteer Fire Department. And I'd just like to take a break from politics for a second to say that I have submitted to you an invitation for all of you commissioners to come join us for our annual award banquet next Thursday, and we would love to see all of you there. And to the entire community, if you're ever in our neck of the woods, please feel free to stop in and say hi. We love visitors. We don't get them very often. Yeah, seriously, in Mans Harbor? Anywho, now I'm going to take my fire department pin off for 2 seconds and speak as a concerned citizen with a message more for the community than the commissioners. I hadn't planned on speaking today, but based off the comments I've heard in the room, both on and especially off the microphone, the scoffs, the underhanded chuckles, I simply cannot in good faith be a bystander. In the trying times that we face, I believe everyone who has come before the podium today has come from a place of fear or uncertainty. And as a representative of the youth, I ask that everyone stop, breathe, and consider the example that we're setting. I mean, that's what the top of the bulletin says. I mean, We must not forget that we're all Americans, that we are all concerned citizens. That's why we're here. Well, I'm not. I'm here to invite you to our dinner, but, you know, everyone else. With that, to the community, I say, as we leave here today, please, despite what we may feel, be slow to anger and insult. Be open to reason and debate, and most importantly, maintain tolerance, love, and compassion for the person sitting next to you. Before I came up to speak, I noticed two people. I'm gonna pick on you right here in the corner. I noticed you and you back there. You walked up to each other and gave each other the biggest hug in the world with the widest smiles in the world. And nobody else was noticing because everyone was up here debating, but I noticed because I sit in the back and I'm nosy, right? That love, that smile, that hug. To both sides of the argument, I say, be passionate and speak openly, but be respectful in your pursuits and set a good example. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else like to speak? There's one back here. I'll come back to you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm Pat Fleming. I live in Nags Head, and I'm sorry I didn't do prepared remarks either. But I would like to believe that this should be a nonpartisan issue because this affects everybody, no matter what your politics are. And I would urge this commission to vote against this resolution. It just seems like we're opening up Dare County to be the Wild West, and that's not why any of us live here, I don't think. So I would just ask that we all think about how this really affects our lives. We already have the right. Nobody's trying to take that away. But to bring this up now, I'm not sure what good that does, and I would just like to voice my opinion that I would like you to vote against it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, Daniel Lewis, resident of Kitty Hawk. I did not plan on speaking either. I'm actually apologize for being a little bit late. And I'm here to ask you not to vote yes, not to vote no. Last time I checked, this is the Dare County Commissioners. This is not the Supreme Court. It's not the United States Senate. It would be a given that everyone, all Americans, would support the Constitution of the United States. But the Constitution is not the end all. If it were, we would not have further laws. We would not have state laws, okay? There are limits to the First Amendment. You can't yell fire in a crowded movie theater. There are limits to the Second Amendment. In fact, many of you know I'm head of the Restaurant Association. One of the topics we're gonna talk about today, because of this topic, is what happens if somebody brings a gun into your restaurant. It's happened. There is a general statute, North Carolina 14269.3. It shall be unlawful for any person to carry a gun, rifle, or pistol into any assembly where a fee has been charged or admission thereto, or into any establishment in which alcoholic beverages are sold and consumed. We have laws. We have remedies. If you don't like this law, we have representatives that can introduce a change to that law. This is not the venue for this discussion. So again, I ask you not to vote yes, not to vote no. Mr. Overman, with due respect, I ask that you just take this off the table. It has done nothing except stir up the hornet's nest and make us divisive. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name's Scott Norton. I'm out of Kill Devil Hills. I wasn't planning to speak either. Been carrying a gun and owning a firearm for 45 years. Professionally carrying a firearm for approximately 30. I've been in combat, been shot 3 times. That doesn't make me the only expert out there. There isn't just only one expert. One thing that bothers me is the amount of disinformation or incorrect information that's been given this morning, as well as illogical arguments. I appreciate the fact that some people don't like firearms. I appreciate that they don't carry firearms or own them. That's fine. I'm not bothered by that, but I would like to say that their ability to protect themselves is increased by a firearm. The vast amount of crimes that are committed with firearms are with illegal firearms and not with legal firearms. I am in support of this, and thank you very much, Mr. Oakland. I appreciate all of your services, but this is not at a last minute time, which I didn't expect to speak. This isn't a time for me to try and lay out all the statistics, all the references, and all the background information. I would definitely like to volunteer more, give you a report later on, but this just isn't the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Ginger Walters. I live in Kill Devil Hills. I really wasn't planning to speak, but because I'm petrified of public speaking, to be honest. Anyway, I'm here as a mother, a wife, a nurse, and a concerned citizen. My husband and I have both worked, thank you, in the medical field our entire careers and have personally witnessed the dark side of guns and the tragic impact on the lives of so many Americans. I worked in the emergency room, ICU. My husband works in organ donation. So between the two of us, we've seen a lot of bad stuff that comes out of gun violence. Anyway, I wanted to throw out a few statistics of my own. I know a lot of people have already talked about things, but I think it's worth mentioning that 60% of Americans want stricter gun laws. They want stricter gun laws. That doesn't mean they want to take people's guns away. They just want stricter laws. According to a Quinnipiac poll, 73% said, quote, more needs to be done to address gun violence. So how do we get there? Do we get there by this kind of resolution? I think not. I think this is grandstanding. I think it's pointless. I think it's divisive. So anyway, here's another point that I haven't heard anybody mention, and that is the impact on our economy. The cost to the American economy for gun violence is $229 billion, $229 billion. The cost to the North Carolina economy is over $2.6 billion due to healthcare costs, law enforcement, criminal justice, the cost to employers, lost income, et cetera, et cetera. Much of this cost is picked up by taxpayers, so the direct annual cost to the North Carolina taxpayers over $500 million. Unfortunately, any discussion of our gun epidemic or gun violence epidemic in this country has become very, very divisive. Politicians and gun advocacy groups know this and have convinced many gun owners that some of us want to take their guns away. Well, this simply isn't true. I have brothers who hunt. My father has guns. I don't hate guns. I personally don't have one, and I don't really want one. But I recognize we have a problem in this country, and somehow we need to get beyond this impasse and talk about it. It's being used as a wedge issue by politicians, by gun advocacy groups, and God knows who else. Guns are inherent in our culture. They're not going anywhere. Folks, they're not going anywhere. We have a constitution to protect that right. That doesn't mean those rights don't come with some restrictions. The issue of gun violence is serious, and it demands thoughtful public debate, not a knee-jerk, meaningless resolution that doesn't speak for a majority of citizens or even speak to the real issue. In fact, resolutions like this can stifle debate, since it tends to suggest that we all support this resolution and that we're all opposed to reasonable restrictions on gun ownership. So I beg you to please not go here. I think it's pointless. I do think we need to have serious discussions about guns and gun violence and what it's doing to our communities. And making a resolution like this is truly not the answer. So I beg you to not pass it. Thank you so much.
Tom DeRasmo, resident of Dare
there of Roanoke Island.
Sir, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
Dom DeRasmo, Roanoke Island. Lady was talking about more gun laws. Chicago, for example, has the strictest gun laws in the country. Look at the murder rate in Chicago. What are those gun laws doing? They're not enforcing what's on the books. We don't need any more. I am totally in favor of this resolution. Another lady said about registering guns. Registration is the first step to confiscation. They know who's got what, and they're gonna come and take it. Red flag laws, not good. Gentleman up in Maryland was killed. Red flag laws, they went to get his gun and wound up killing the man. That's not right. Most of these, I think a lot of these crimes and murders and shootings are a benefit of the illegal immigration in this country. These people are coming in, getting guns wherever, however, and they're using them on we the people. The honest, law-abiding citizen doesn't carry a gun to kill somebody. He carries a gun to keep from being killed, protect his family and his property. So again, I am in favor of this resolution. One more thing, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. Take a little bit here, a little bit there. You take this man's rights away, nobody says nothing because it doesn't bother me. Take that man's rights away. Nobody says anything because it doesn't bother me. Get down to me, who's there to stand up for me? Oh, your rights are gone, now mine are gone too. I pray that you guys pass this resolution. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Any other public comment this morning? Anyone else like to speak for public comment? Seeing none here, is there any public comment in Buxton?
Yes, I have one speaker, Mr. Tom Hronika.
Welcome, Tom.
Good morning. Hey, good morning. I'd first of all like to thank you all for coming down last night. It was very gracious of you to come to Hatteras Island, and I know everybody that was there appreciated it. Now, concerning the discussion that we've heard this morning about the resolution, the Second Amendment resolution, I feel very fortunate because I'm perhaps the last speaker. So therefore, we'll be able to give you all the definitive statement on this subject. And I would start out by saying that I certainly respect and really believe that the gun control and the people that oppose the Second Amendment resolution honestly and sincerely believe what they're saying. So anything that I'm saying is not intended against them. It's simply the way I feel. And I think that, first off, as you can tell, I support the resolution that is before the board. But I think sometimes if we just go to the simplest statements, they might be the easiest to understand. Guns don't kill people, people do. If we laid a gun on this podium, it would not kill a single person. The issue is the human element. The second thing is that we're hearing about mass shootings, and you know, if you look at the statistics, the mass shootings occur basically in gun-free zones. Why do bank robbers go to banks? To rob the banks because there's money. Well, why do people with mental problems and people with evil intent go to schools, go to various other places, theaters? It's because they are gun-free zones. They don't have to worry about anybody bothering them there. The last point that I would make, and it's been echoed a couple times here, is what's going on in Virginia. What we're seeing here is creeping socialism and creeping control of the public by the government. They're using very innocuous topics to get to an ultimate objective. And the innocuous points are things like being able to buy only one gun a month, the red flag laws. Again, go to the simplest version. When you go cooking a crab, you don't throw him into boiling water. You throw him into cool water and gradually turn up the heat. These steps that are being taken, look at the end game. Begin with the end in mind. Why are these people doing this? Not for the things that are on the table in a place like Virginia now. It's for the ultimate control of the people by the government. And that's where the hardcore thing is, regardless of whether you're for or against this particular resolution, for or against gun control, you're going to be affected by what happens and what the outcome is. So again, I'd say I'm in support of the resolution and hope that it'll be approved unanimously by the board. And because we're probably going on almost 2 hours now of hearing comments, I'd like to end with an appeal to the board on a totally different issue, and that is please keep Avon Beach nourishment foremost in your minds, because the beach south of the Avon Pier is really starting to have some problems. So any help that you can give us down here would be greatly appreciated. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Any other public comment from Buxton?
No further comment from Buxton.
With that, Mr. Chairman, we close the public comment.
Okay, thank you, County Manager. It's 10 minutes to 11. I would like to ask the boards to see if we can amend the agenda from item 6, item 5, if we can reverse those out, and I hope that Ms. Brooks will be willing to do this as well. Superintendent Halleck has to be in Richmond later today, and we need to get him on the road. So what I would suggest is we reverse that order, and then after Superintendent Halleck's report from the Park Service, that we take a break. So I have the pleasure of the board to do that.
So moved.
It's been motion's been made by the vice chair. It's been seconded by Commissioner Bateman. Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried unanimous. Park Superintendent Halleck.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for your flexibility with the schedule. I really appreciate that. And I left my notebook at my seat because I thought I had another 15 minutes, but I think I can do it without that. So I'd love to share an overview of the year 2019 with you and talk a little bit about our plans for 2020. We're really excited for the next year. And right about this time, although we had just passed it last year, we were sitting in the middle of the longest government shutdown that I've certainly ever experienced in my career. So it's a real pleasure this year to be standing in front of you with a beautiful budget that we have from our Congress, signed by the President, that has fully funded the government and the National Park Service for the year 2020. We are very appreciative to have that generous budget and looking forward to moving forward. On the other hand, I'll tell you, 2019, I'm done already, Bob?
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. It was a tough 35 days, and it's interesting, after being out for 35 days and then trying to pick up the pieces, it was almost like we, got 12 months worth of work done in 10. So a great year. One of the things I'm really proud of over the last year is the start of Outer Banks Forever. This is a dedicated philanthropic partner to Cape Hatteras National Seashore, Fort Raleigh National Historic Site, and Wright Brothers Memorial. They've established a great board of directors. Your chairman is part of that, and we look forward to having them help us achieve a level of excellence in our 3 national park units here in the Outer Banks. They're not here to help us fund the basics. We'll take care of that, I promise you. They're here to reach that margin of excellence and do incredible things for our community and for our visitors. So I'm just going to run down real quick some of the things that we accomplished this year. How many of you have ever been down Pear Pad Road at Fort Raleigh National Historic Site? Yeah, there's probably some fishermen on Roanoke Island that are really upset with me right now, wade fishermen. This is a great spot. It's been a bit of a secret beach here for years, and we've decided to try to increase or improve visitor access to this area. You can see the fence there. We made a little parking area. There's now a path down to the beach. Kayakers, paddleboarders, wade fishermen, you name it, are using it. It's been a great small improvement at Fort Raleigh. And there's a beautiful view of the beach right there. One of the big accomplishments for the last year was the execution of a 20-year lease at the Oregon Inlet Marina. We are so proud to have this 57-boat offshore and inshore fishing marina. It's been a real piece of the heritage of the Outer Banks. Fishing is a priority. Recreational, commercial fishing is a priority for Cape Hatteras National Seashore. So having this facility under a new lease for 20 years is exciting. More to come. You see, we're getting ready to rebuild the fishing center building there here in the coming year or two, and look forward to hearing more from you about your thoughts. We are extremely lucky to receive a multi-million-dollar grant from the Federal Highways Administration for pavement preservation. Pavement preservation is a little different than repaving. This is what you do when you have a good section of road and you want to keep it in good shape. Projects like chip seal and thin asphalt overlays. I hope you enjoy the ride from Whalebone down to the Oregon Inlet Bridge. That was the last big piece of this project. We appreciate all of your support, flexibility, and patience while we got these projects underway. On today, this exact date, last year, there was a massive shrimp trawler that had a major accident right off of the coast of the beach in Frisco. And you might ask, why am I even telling you about this? I'm telling you about this because this incident and the response to this incident, see on the left, February 4th, the beach looked like that for miles. 2 days later, look at the beach. And you want to know why that happened? That happened because of this community. There were volunteers. This is the biggest volunteer effort we've ever had. We had volunteers from Kitty Hawk, Kill Devil Hills, Nags Head, Currituck County, Hyde County. They came over from Ocracoke, Hatteras Island. Dozens and dozens of people that cared so much about their beaches, cared so much about the National Park Service. Shanna Fulmer of your group provided dumpsters for us. You helped out tremendously. Just a great testament to what our community can do to help protect our beaches. Oregon Inlet Campground. We just got water and power to 46 sites here at the campground. We're keeping it open this year for the first time ever in the wintertime. And as you drive by, you'll see RVs there enjoying the location. We endeavor to do this kind of improvement at the other 3 campgrounds as well. For the first time in a long time, we added a 4th lifeguarded beach down in Frisco. So now we have 4 of those beaches, and we're really proud to do everything we can to try to protect visitors and improve upon swimming safety. The National Park Service is so proud to be a part of Love the Beach, Respect the Ocean. This is a great initiative. Ms. Hester here, Drew from Emergency Services, you guys have all brought us together to empower our visitors, to give them information, to educate them about the ocean conditions, the dangers that are out there, and help people manage their own risks when it comes to swimming safety. Proud to be a part of this, and we look forward to more work together. We reopened the Wright Brothers Visitor Center in the beginning of 2019, at least fiscal year, and during the calendar year 2019, that visitor center received a LEED Gold certification, highest level of energy efficiency for that building that you can achieve in the building industry. We're really proud of that. There's Commissioner Couch next to me at the Kite Point parking area. This is a 50-car parking area down between Buxton and Avon, called Kite Point because the kiteboarders love this spot. We are so proud to put a new parking area in place there, get people off the highway, and provide more recreational access to the sound side. Cape Hatteras National Seashore was the federal sponsor for the grant that came to the North Carolina Department of Transportation for the Ocracoke Express, which is a passenger ferry that goes to Silver Lake every day. The first year was a wild success. More than 30,000 people traveled on that ferry. And I like to remind people, as I'm sure you all do, that even though it's called the Ocracoke Express, it can also bring you from Ocracoke to Dare County on Hatteras Island to see everything that Dare County has to offer as well. This year was the 50th anniversary of the lunar landing. We had hundreds of people at Wright Brothers. We believe more than 1,000 people there that day, an astronaut there. Great way to celebrate the amazing accomplishments of the United States, our ingenuity, our hard work, and our innovation. And what better place than Wright Brothers? Commissioner Woodard spoke at the 20th anniversary of the Lighthouse move. This was a great event, hearing from the engineers and scientists and all the hard work that went into moving that lighthouse and safeguarding it for hopefully another 50 years. By the way, the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse was built in 1870. It's the 150th anniversary of the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse and Dare County. Very exciting. And I tell you, every time I stand here in front of you, it warms my heart to see your emblem behind you, which really, I could wear that all day long and it would work for the Park Service. The Elizabeth II signifying the Roanoke voyages, and that's what Fort Raleigh National Historic Site is all about. The Cape Hatteras Lighthouse, I'll tell you, somebody in Tokyo, San Francisco, Kansas City, or Portland, Maine could close their eyes and think about a lighthouse, and I guarantee you that's the image they see. Our lighthouse here in Dare County. And of course, the Wright Brothers Monument at Wright Brothers Memorial. What a great season it was to work with the North Carolina Department of Transportation, who worked so hard to keep our roads open and our roads safe for us, and have both a community day and a ribbon cutting for the new Bass Knight Bridge. What an honor, what a great example of teamwork when the federal government, state government, county government all put our minds together and worked towards something great. One of the things we did over the last year is had the first annual Surf Fishing Heritage Celebration. You may not know this, the word fishing is in the enabling legislation from Congress in 1937 for Cape Hatteras Seashore. And not only does it talk about recreational fishing, it talks about the right for citizens in the villages to earn a livelihood through commercial fishing as well. And as you may know, we issue commercial fishing permits for free to all commercial fishermen in Dare County. It was so nice to have this surf fishing heritage. Many would say that Cape Point and many areas on Hatteras Island are the birthplace of surf fishing on the East Coast. We had great speakers. This is online, and this was a panel of women in sport fishing. And let me tell you, they were the stars of the show. They cracked everybody up. They told the greatest stories, and they really made us proud. Another thing that we did, we're really interested in improving accessibility of recreational activities at the seashore for everyone. When you drive from Whalebone Junction down to Oregon Inlet, if you look carefully during duck hunting season, you'll notice that we actually have 20 permitted hunting blinds. This year, we decided to create a new blind, and it is a handicapped accessible hunting blind. This blind can be accessed via wheelchair. When you get to the end of it, there's a ramp down for a dog, for hunters to go and retrieve ducks, to put out decoys. Everything about it is fully handicapped accessible. And in addition, we had great technical advice from the North Carolina Wildlife Resources Commission. And it's dual purpose. When it's not hunting season, it's a wildlife watching platform. Photographers and just those visitors that are passing by can go out and see the importance of the marsh areas for our ecosystem. 2019 was the record for sea turtle nesting at Cape Hatteras National Seashore. We had 473 sea turtle nests. If I was standing in front of you a decade ago, I'd be excited about 50 or 75 nests. This is incredible. This is a testament to conservation both in our open waters and our oceans, and the things that commercial fishermen do to help protect sea turtles, and also conservation on land as well. We are finally seeing the benefits of decades of that, and have almost 500 sea turtle nests at the seashore. So we had some challenges as well. I like to look at data all the time, so believe it or not, I got a screenshot of this on my phone, and if you want to know what that is the tide gauge at the North Carolina Coalition for the Advancement of Teaching on Ocracoke Island at Silver Lake in the hours following the arrival of Hurricane Dorian. And what you see is the little up and down, of course, is high tide, low tide, high tide, low tide, high tide, low tide. I'm on the phone with my district ranger who says everything's fine, texts me back 7 minutes later, said, oh my God, the water is coming up and it's coming up fast. And he was not kidding. There was approximately a 7-foot water rise that happened really in less than 2 hours. Luckily, it went down quickly, but this was unprecedented, and it didn't only affect Ocracoke Island, as you know, it affected quite a bit of Hatteras Island and other areas as well. That's a photograph of me on North Carolina 12. It's interesting that I look at that and feel sad because our friends with the Department of Transportation, I don't know if Alan's still here, came back so quickly, you know, like superheroes, and fixed that road and fixed the dunes. It was absolutely amazing. But this gives you a feel for the damage caused by that storm. And that road was not damaged from the Atlantic-facing ocean. It was damaged from the sound busting through because the water levels were so high. Picture of the grounds by the Ocracoke Lighthouse. This is a historic shed next to the double keeper's quarters of the Ocracoke Lighthouse. If you look carefully, you'll notice that it got lifted up and floated off of its foundation. We still have major challenges when it comes to erosion in Cape Hatteras Seashore and also Fort Raleigh National Historic Site. These are what used to be the stacking lanes. You used to basically park your car here waiting for the ferry to go back to Hatteras Island, and much of this is in the water. Despite that, Mother Nature thrived. I love this photograph. That's a cliff or an escarpment that was about 15 feet high, and you can see a sea turtle nest that somehow or another survived. And believe it or not, most of those eggs were still viable, and most of those turtles hatched and made it to the ocean.
That's amazing.
It was a pleasure to work with the county. This is actually the Buxton Beach access in Buxton that we permitted to the county as a debris staging site. And I am so impressed with how well your Public Works Department and your county manager and your contractors have cleaned that site up. You would have no idea that that site looked like that a month ago. It looks better than it did than before you used it. Thank you for that. Lots of other impacts. This is the Avon Pier. So after Dorian, I kind of thought we could rest easy and start to worry about recovering. In the beginning of October, Tropical Storm Melissa came through. This is the Avon Pier, which is owned by the National Park Service and operated by Joe Thompson as a concession. That pier was badly damaged. I joke sometimes that the only thing that's more expensive than owning a boat is a pier. It's a difficult place to manage. And then just a few weeks later, an unnamed nor'easter comes through and closed the highway for 4 days and actually caused more damage to the dunes on Ocracoke Island and some of the island there than we saw during Hurricane Dorian. So this is a tough place, but we're making progress. I like to show you this image here. This is the north end of Ocracoke Island, and that's not just seagrass or seaweed. That's actually historic marsh. There has been so much erosion on the Outer Banks, and you can see rebuilt dunes in the background, that the beach has lost so much sand, it is now uncovering historic marsh areas and areas that used to be marsh decades ago. Anybody know what that is?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, we got them back, so that's a good thing. So how did this all pan out when it comes to our visitors to the 3 national parks? Fort Raleigh has been on a bit of a downward trend. We had about 5% fewer visitors than the year before, still hovering around 250,000 folks. Wright Brothers was up by about 11%, approximately 400 or a little over 400,000 visitors to the location where Orville and Wilbur had that incredible first flight. Cape Hatteras Seashore is blowing me away. Despite Dorian, despite the inability to get to Ocracoke Island, visitation was up. This is the highest level of visitation we have had in 16 years. We've broken the 2.6 million visitor mark, and it's just incredible that the visitation keeps climbing there. And these are not visits for an hour or 2 or a day. We know from the Visitors Bureau that the average stay in the Outer Banks is 5.8 nights for overnight visitors. So these people are coming for a week, and they're enjoying the treasure that we all have here. So where are we going in 2020? We're going to continue to focus on Dorian recovery. We're looking to revitalize the Cape Hatteras Lighthouse District. The Cape Hatteras Lighthouse is ready for a full-blown renovation. Everything in that lighthouse needs help. The paint, the mortar, the bricks, the iron. It's time to preserve that lighthouse for another 100 years or more. It is the symbol of Cape Hatteras Seashore. It's clearly one of the symbols of Dare County as well. We are going to continue to adapt to a dynamic coastline. The erosion issues that we're facing today are unprecedented, and we're going to need to work very carefully with all of you to make sure that we continue to have a thriving place for visitors to come, a thriving environment, and a thriving economy that goes along with that. Wright Brothers improvements and also camping modernization. We want to get all of our campgrounds up to a modern level of providing great visitor experiences. We're also looking to improve some of the facilities at Wright Brothers. And finally, we're looking to improve housing for our own staff. Many of our staff that come during the summertime are renting from the Park Service. They're in 1960s trailers that are on blocks, and they've outlived their useful lives. It's time for us to improve that quality so that we can attract the best employees to provide the best experience to our guests. Thank you so much for the opportunity to present to all of you. Thank you for all you do to work so closely, so warmly, and so collaboratively with the National Park Service. Be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Dave. Any questions today? Thank you. Hope you have a safe trip to Richmond, Dave.
Thank you. And thank you so much for the flexibility with the schedule.
Absolutely. We'll take a 10-minute break. I'm going to call the Dare County Board of Commissioners meeting back to order. County Manager.
Yes, sir. That brings us up to number 5 on the agenda, and that's the North Carolina Cooperative Extension Report, and Shannon Brooks and her team are here to give that presentation.
Good morning, Shannon, and thank you for your patience in reversing that. Mr. Superintendent Halleck had to get to Richmond, so appreciate your cooperation.
Well, thank you. It is my great privilege to be here today to tell you about cooperative extension and what we've been doing in 2019. Our mission in North Carolina Cooperative Extension, we work to provide educational information in the areas of horticulture, youth development, family and consumer sciences, and community development to improve the quality of life for Dare County citizens. First, I'd like to introduce my team. All these folks that got up and got their pins for 20 and 25 years, well, I have an individual who's served Dare County for 30 years. I'd like to introduce her first. She keeps us on our toes. She is the face of our office, and she is just wonderful. She also keeps us laughing, but Donna Hanusik, I'd like to just recognize you for 30 years. Please stand up. You can remain standing. I'll let others join you. Our district director is here today, Art Bradley. Tim White is our liaison with Dare County. We're so happy that he's here today with us. And the employee of the month is part of our management team, Shannon. Amy Jordan is the ag tech in our office. Paige Fusilier is the 4-H agent. Dee Furlaw is our family and consumer science agent. And last but certainly not least, our wonderful Master Gardener volunteers. We have a team of them here today. Chris, Lois, Louise, Don, and Judy, please stand. This is just a part of my team, and these are the people that make what I'm about to tell you happen. This is their hard work, and I'm just privileged to be here today to brag about it. So thank you, team. We serve Dare County by providing the services I just mentioned to you. We had 73 educational programs, providing over 454 hours of instruction. Our 4-H program this year grew by leaps and bounds under Paige Lilly's leadership. She did get married this past year, so I have to change her name. The participation in our programs doubled under her leadership, with youth participating in a variety of programs, day camps, week-long camps, away camps. They represented us across the state of North Carolina at our electric Congress and the North Carolina State Congress. She provided programs such as the Culinary Academy, Crime Scene Investigation Camp, Service and Citizenship, with some of your participation. Thank you for that. Farm to Fork, Albemarle Sound Exploration. She raised funds to provide these programs for free for Dare County kids. She sent kids to away camp at the Eastern 4-H Center. 5 of those were at-risk youth that attended the camp fully scholarshiped. She's a great asset to our 4-H program, and I'm very proud of what she's accomplished. Our Family and Consumer Science program is led by Dee Furlaw, who delivers nationally recognized curriculum that's designed to encourage healthy eating, increase physical activity, and reduction in chronic diseases. She's an award-winning agent, and she provides a variety of programs, and her programs are growing in attendance. She also annually gets funding for these programs. This past year, she was an award recipient for a program endowment, earning $800 to go towards her programming. She also leads the Extension Community Association volunteer group, and just 8 members of that group provided 393 hours of service to Dare County. The horticulture program grew this year. We had a consumer aspect of that program and also a commercial aspect. Our commercial aspect, we had our first pesticide school in about 10 years. I think it was 10 years. Might have been 8. But the first one in a very long time. It was very well attended for a first-time pesticide school. We had 33 sitting for those exams and getting their licenses for pesticide application. We have more landscapers than any other district in the Northeast, so this is a very important service that we provide. We also provide credit opportunities so they can continue to get their licenses updated year after year. The Master Gardeners provided home horticulture education throughout Dare County and in Currituck County up in Corolla. They are an international award-winning group of volunteers that are sought after for their expertise in how to provide fantastic educational programming in home horticulture. People, since they've won that award, people call from all over the state to ask how they do it, what they do, can they repeat it, and they've been instrumental in helping me reach out to all of Dare County, from the tip of Hatteras all the way up to Corova. So I'm very proud of their program. I'm very proud of what those 77 volunteers accomplish every year. I'm simply wowed by what they do. 77 volunteers provided nearly 6,000 hours of volunteer service. I'm sure it's probably more than that, but they're very humble. And according to the national value for the dollar of a volunteer service hour, they provided 147,000 plus some of economic value to our community. Their Speakers Bureau series has tripled in attendance since they won their international award. In recent programs, it was standing room only, and we had to turn people away. So we're going to provide more programs, I think. They're just a fantastic group. Our total of 107 volunteers provided nearly 7,000 hours of service in 1 year to Dare County. And again, I can't say enough about our volunteers. They really extend our reach, and they're just fantastic that they can provide that level of service, that commitment to Dare County. I would like to leave you with one of our terrific videos that Donna Hanusek prepares. And I will apologize. We are going to have to go because the office is closed while we're here. So we're going to have to go and open our office today for services.
The zones of a barrier island are all represented in Southern Shores. We have dunes, we have the ocean side of the dune, the wayward side of the dune, we have maritime forest. Thank you so much for your support. One plug for our Arboretum. Please come out and visit us in the Arboretum adjacent to the Baum Center, and come to our festival in May. It's free for everyone. Thank you.
Shannon, one thing is pretty obvious from this, and that is y'all are having entirely too much fun.
Yes, we are.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Are you hiring?
Yes. Always. Sign up, volunteer.
Thank you, Shannon, and
Thank
thank you
you.
for the work that y'all are doing.
Thank you very
Thank y'all.
Gotta go open the office.
Yeah, we fully understand.
Chairman, that brings us to item 7 on the agenda, and that's the recommendation from the Capital Improvement Committee on the consulting engineer for the Avon Nourishment Project. As you know, several meetings ago, you all asked us to do the RFQ and put aside some money to fund this study. We did the RFQs and we've got them back. Last week, the CIP committee met. We got responses from 3. We were very lucky that we got 3 excellent companies that did this. We got a response from Coastal Science and Engineering, which is Tim Canna and his group that did our Buxton project. We also got a response from Moffitt and Nickel. While they haven't done nourishment projects, we've worked with them in conjunction with DOT and with other studies and things. They did our Oregon Inlet study some years ago, and so they're another good group that's well known. They do lots of beach nourishment projects down in the Carteret County area. And then we also got a response from Aptum, which is Tim Wilson's group, which has done all of the North Beach projects. So we're kind of lucky that we had 3 excellent contenders. We had 3 groups that could certainly do the work, that we would certainly be satisfied with any of them. The Capital Improvement Committee met, talked about it, went through them. Ultimately, because you're flipping coins between 3 excellent companies, they chose CSE and Tim Canna's group. That group has some familiarity with our beaches down there. They did our Buxton project. That project's ongoing now for our maintenance project that's coming up, and so they're down there. It was convenient for them, convenient for us, and it just made sense. They'd also worked with the Park Service down there and had that familiarity, and they'd also met and been with the public down there in the past with this project, as well as met with some people from Avon as well. So short to say that the Capital Improvement Committee is recommending to you all as the board today that we select Coastal Science and Engineering. If you select them today, I'll call Tim Canna after the meeting and he will be forwarding us a contract. Hopefully we'll have that in time before our next meeting to get you all to approve that contract. And if you do, then that study can start once we've approved that contract at that meeting.
Pleasure of the board.
Move to approve, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Commissioner Couch to approve CSC, and it's been seconded by Commissioner Bateman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Chairman, item 8 on the agenda is an amendment to the capital project ordinance for our Series 2020 LOBs for our projects, and Dave Clausen's going to present that.
Good morning, Dave.
This is a catch-up and a catch-out, kind of a catch-all item for 4 different things that we want to adjust the budget for.
Just as a point of clarification for all of us in the audience, the LOB is not an underhanded slow pitch. It is rather a limited obligation bond.
It's going to get there. Yeah, all these projects, as you remember, are included in the piece of debt that we're going to issue this calendar year. Right now, our best guess is August. First is the College of the Albemarle project. Went back and reviewed the architectural contract. That is the fee plus expenses, and the expenses were not included in the original estimate that you approved in October. I got an estimate from Boomerang Design of what those would be, so I'm asking you to add $10,000 to that project cost. The second item is $15,845 for the fiber optic line. The current line goes in on the US 64 side. The connection for the entire campus into one of the buildings that we're going to be demolishing. So this moves it around to the back side into the professional arts building. Then the Manteo property that we have closed on that is contiguous to Manteo Elementary School. We included an extremely ballpark estimate for renovations of that property. I believe it was $287,000. Facilities maintenance got it done for $69,621. They didn't find any foundation issues. They didn't find any structural issues, and they are all done. So we'll reduce it by that amount plus $162 to actual closing cost reduction. And then on the Buxton property, reduce closing costs for $4,957 to the actual. So the net of everything is to reduce anticipated amount that we'll borrow by $197,153. And you've got included in the packet this summary, the amendment to the capital project ordinance, my quick and dirty update to the College of the Albemarle project budget, the email from Boomerang Design on their expenses, the quote from CenturyLink, and then the 2 summaries that I said I'd provide each time, which is first the budget summary for where we stand with all 5 of the projects, and then the project summary showing the current project estimates. So what we're asking you to do is to adopt the amendment to the capital project ordinance.
Any questions today? Pleasure of the board then.
Move to approve.
There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner House to adopt the amendment to the capital project ordinance. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Ross and the Vice Chairman Overman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carried unanimous. Thank you, Dave. Thank you.
Chairman, item 9 on the agenda is a resolution concerning the Alligator River Bridge improvements. And I don't know, Mr. Overman, I'll send that to you, Commissioner Overman.
Thank you, Bobby. Basically, as is stated in the description, NCDOT is asking for a sort of a survey online, asking for local input on what the people want in our particular district here regarding transportation infrastructure. This ability to put in what you want as an individual ends on February 28th, so you have a few weeks to get it in. We will have a link on the Dare County website in order for you to go on and put on any type of project that you want considered. The Alligator River Bridge is one of the key infrastructures that we have been talking about now for several years with regard to a replacement bridge. It is critical to the ingress and egress to Dare and surrounding counties for a variety of reasons that are indicated in the resolution that Bobby will read here in a moment. But it is a huge safety issue regarding evacuations prior to or maybe even during hurricanes. If that bridge gets stuck open, then we've got some real problems in getting people out of here, since 64 is one of the main highways to get people out of there and, for that matter, surrounding counties. So, Bobby, if you would read the resolution, please.
Sure. This is a resolution in support of Alligator River Bridge improvements. Whereas the Lindsay C. Warren Bridge, which crosses the Alligator River, was constructed in 1960 and serves as the main transportation link along Highway 64 from areas west of Dare County. And whereas the drawbridge infrastructure of the bridge is obsolete and was closed for repairs in 2017 and 2019, resulting in lengthy detours for residents, visitors, and commerce to Dare County, Currituck County, Hyde County, and Terrell County. And whereas the Alligator River is part of the intercoastal waterways and is used by numerous commercial shipping vessels and recreational boats on an annual basis, often creating delays and backups. And whereas the Lindsay C. Warren Bridge is an essential component of the hurricane evacuation route for residents of Dare County, Currituck County, and Hyde County, and thousands of Outer Banks visitors each year, and the continuous functionality of the Warren Bridge is imperative to ensure the safety of our citizens, residents, and visitors. Whereas the need for a new bridge and/or replacement bridge across the Alligator River has been identified by the North Carolina Department of Transportation, but has not been funded as a part of the state's transportation improvement plan, despite the age, obscurity, and the continued operational issues of the bridge. And whereas the methodology for STIP funding does not allow a new or replacement Alligator River Bridge to compete effectively against other transportation improvements in more urban areas of the state, thus contributing to the continued delay in construction of a new replacement bridge. Whereas the NC Department of Transportation is soliciting comments on transportation improvements for inclusion in the 10-year transportation plan for 2023 to 2032. Now therefore be it resolved, the Dare County Board of Commissioners request a new or replacement bridge for the Alligator River be included in the 2023-2032 State Transportation Improvement Plan in recognition of the vital role this bridge plays in the transportation and commerce needs of Dare County and eastern North Carolina. Be it further resolved that other funding sources for improvements should be identified by the state of North Carolina if STIP methodology used for funding is not suitable and practicable for this project. This the 4th day of February 2020.
Pleasure of the board.
Move to approve.
There's a motion on the floor by Commissioner House to adopt the resolution and to submit it to NCDOT. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Vice Chairman Overman. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to thank Donna Creep, who's in the audience today. Donna, thank you for putting this resolution, the greater part of it, together. Thank you so much. I think you touched all the bases. It's something that we've discussed multiple times at the RPO meetings as something of a crucial issue for Dare County, and I appreciate your input. Thank you so much.
Anyone else? That being said, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Chairman, that brings us to item 10 on the agenda. This is a resolution in support of the Constitution of the United States of America, and I would turn that back over to Vice Chairman Overman.
As mentioned during public comment, I think maybe several times even, at our last meeting, we received a request to consider a resolution regarding specifically the Second Amendment. We as a board felt we needed to respond to this as we do any other things that come before us like this. Rather than using this particular resolution that was offered as a model due to its length and detail, that included hot button words like sanctuary, which was mentioned earlier. A new concise resolution was written in support of the U.S. Constitution as a whole and the Second Amendment in particular. And that is what we wound up with here. We wanted something that was short, concise, and to the point, that was in support of the entire Constitution of the United States, including the Bill of Rights and more specifically the Second Amendment. So, Bob, if you would read that resolution, please.
Resolution in support of the Constitution of the United States of America. Whereas the Constitution of the United States of America is the foundation upon which our nation was created, and whereas all amendments therein exist co-equally in importance and stature as originally written by the founders, and whereas the Second Amendment is one of the vital protectors of these freedoms. Now therefore be it resolved that the Dare County Board of Commissioners opposes any and all attempts to infringe upon these rights and freedoms, including the right to keep and bear arms as defined in the Second Amendment, this the 4th day of February, 2020.
Pleasure of the board on the resolution.
Move to approve.
There's a motion on the floor to approve the resolution by the Vice Chairman Overman. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Ross. The floor is open for discussion. Who would like to go first? Would you like to go first,
Sure.
Commissioner
Thank you,
Ross?
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
I would like to take the time. First off, thank you to the 24, 25 members of the community who came here this morning and voiced their points of view on this resolution. About a month ago, it occurred to me as this was brought up to us, was this potentially a resolution that was a solution in search of a problem? I mean, it's been said that there's really no issue here and that there is no state or local jurisdiction that could pass a law that would be unconstitutional because they simply couldn't do that. It would be inappropriate and unlawful to do so. And I gave it some more thought and considered a couple of recent examples as I reflected on this. I sit on the Trillium Health Services Board with Vice Chairman Overman, and we consider the distribution and allocation of hundreds of millions of dollars that go to people with intellectual and developmental disabilities, substance abuse problems, and mental illness. I read each week the Department of Health and Human Services report that cites the level of abuse in our community that traces back to substance abuse. And I think, well, we shouldn't have illegal substances. They must be controlled. And yet, I know that cocaine, heroin, marijuana are illegal in the United States. That is a fact. And yet there are jurisdictions where it's been declared no. Marijuana is quite legal. You're quite free to openly sell and use marijuana. The state of Colorado comes to mind. I'm not trying to divert our discussion. I'm simply citing a couple of things that came to mind as I reflected on this resolution. And I thought, how can that be? How can a state pass a law legalizing something that's illegal? It didn't seem to make sense to me until I came to realize they did so by enjoining their local law enforcement not to enforce federal law, and federal law enforcement chose not to enforce it either. So rather than in the affirmative, it almost was a backdoor, well, it's legal by virtue of no one's doing anything about it. Okay, but that's just one off. That can't really happen more than once. And again, I'm not trying to open the can to another debate, but a sovereign state like the United States or any nation has borders. We have rules on who may and may not enter the country, legally and otherwise, and we do so with the approval of our legislature by the virtue of passing laws. And yet again, we have local jurisdictions who have declared, and perhaps with, full hearts and humanitarian efforts, we simply aren't going to follow the law. We will declare the city of fill in the blank as a sanctuary if you are here illegally. And we will also instruct and enjoin local law enforcement to not only not cooperate, but in some instances, actively inhibit the ability of men and women in federal enforcement, like Immigration and Customs Enforcement or Border Patrol, and inhibit their efforts to enforce the law. Well, that creates a very inherent conflict. If you are a member of local law enforcement, what do? Do you follow the local instruction, do not assist? Do you follow federal law? These are the thoughts that were going through my mind. So then I went to and reflected and saw the emails submitted. And after being on the board for 3 years, and I look at Mary Helen as a member of the press who is dutifully here. Thank you, Mary Helen, for virtually every meeting, and I've been on the board for 3 years. And the words ludicrous, divisive, fueling the fire of hatred, vitriol, knee-jerk, dangerous. And I thought, gosh, have I been doing all those things for these 3 years on the board? I sure didn't think so, and I sure wasn't intending to. So as I read the resolution, it essentially came to me that we're simply, and by the way, just in passing, there are quite a few, what I would say, common sense laws and regulations currently on the books that restrict certain weapons ownership and how one is obtained in terms of owning a firearm. And again, I say this not to criticize or disparage any of the comments that I believe were made with full good intention and heartfelt commitment. But at the end of the day, the fundamental principle of the Constitution as the basis for our republic and the adherence to and protection of the rights, liberties, and as many have said, we absolutely are dearly grateful for the right to stand at the podium, tell us exactly what was on your mind with absolutely no fear of intimidation, recrimination, threats, insults. None of those things happen because we're guaranteed those protections and they must be defended always. So in terms of this and what is happening in Virginia, this resolution, 8 separate legislative bills were introduced in Virginia. I'm sure that Governor Northam in Virginia felt every single one of them was good common sense legislation. I read yesterday the most recent was defeated in the legislature. This particular one would have criminalized with a felony keeping an unsecured weapon in your home, a firearm. The legislature said that is so broad and so risky that we could suddenly criminalize thousands of Virginians who are otherwise living peacefully, committing no crime and harming no one. And I believe they rightfully said no. So my thinking at the end of the day came down to the fundamental basic of defending and supporting the Constitution and the Bill of Rights in its entirety, and the resistance to local ordinances or local law that would otherwise infringe on these guaranteed protections to all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ross. Commissioner House.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got a couple of comments that I definitely want to make and point out about being divided as a community or as a political party or whatever. I don't see it. I have talked with several of my constituents throughout Dare County about this particular amendment and about this particular motion on both sides of the fence. And I have gotten quite a few different responses. Majority of who I spoke to were in favor of it. And one gentleman actually pointed out to me, which I had thought about, but he actually brought it to light, especially with this coming up. There's good and bad things about gun ownership, and you have to be responsible in your own ownership of that weapon. And looking at the safety aspect of, we heard that several times today, they don't feel safe walking around someone where they know somebody has a gun. I'm going to compare apples to apples. And I want to point out also what the media does to fuel that fire. We had 2 mass shootings in churches, one in Charleston, South Carolina, one in Texas. The one in Charleston, the subject who had the gun and went into that church actually should not have had a gun. If he had done his background check, he would not be owning that gun. He got it through illegal means and killed several people in that church. A couple months ago, we had a similar situation in Texas. A gunman went into a church, shot and killed several people. A bystander in that church who had a concealed carry weapon was able to take the assailant out. How many lives did that person save? There were several rounds found by law enforcement in the assailant's weapon, still ready to go. You don't hear about those stories. The media concern of the church in Charleston, it was a featured headline article on every news circuit for 2.5 weeks. The incident in Texas was a featured article on every news media outlet for 2 days. The facts are sometimes covered. Also, with that, as many of you know, I spent over 35 years in emergency services. I've seen the good and the bad of gun weapons. I have seen the domestic violence where a gun was used. I have also seen the domestic violence against the wife in the confrontation who took it on herself when she knew things were getting escalated just by the normal daily repetition. They went out themselves and bought a weapon and defended themselves. It's a two-way street. Also, I want to say one thing, and then I'll pass it on. The resolution that we're looking at is defending the Constitution. Every elected official in the state of North Carolina, including all of us, said these same words. I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and the laws of North Carolina not consistent therein, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office. So help me God. Let me reiterate that. I will support and maintain the Constitution and the laws of the United States and the constitutional laws of North Carolina. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner House. Commissioner Bateman?
A few things. The first thing, we heard comments about partisanship. I will just tell you this, folks, everybody here, this has got to be the most non-partisan board I've ever served on. And I've been on small ones within the town of Kitty Hawk. I've been on the state boards. There's no partisanship here. So to insinuate that this is along party lines is completely wrong. Every board member on this commission here are good people. They all work hard, they all study, they're doing what they need to do do the best for the county to represent their constituents and their people they are out here to represent, every one of them. Whether we agree or disagree with something they do or trying to get passed or whatever, we need to always be respectful of those individuals. And some of the remarks tonight embarrass me. I'm just going to tell you, because they're all good people. And that's important to realize. This causes me great pain. I mean, this upsets me. 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I'm playing volleyball. Everybody's having a great time. At 4:05, my best friend is dead. 410 shotgun to the liver, and he's dead. 2 really, really good friends blew their brains out. I hate guns. I despise guns. I despise what guns have done to my family. I despise what guns are doing to America in the hands of people who should not have them. I despise that. It makes me mad. It makes me sick. I was also there when as a young man, I was reading a letter from a family member who was in Vietnam. And I replied to my mom, you know, Robert's doing really, really good. Robert Sadler is the guy's name. And the phone rang at the same time, and the phone told my mother that he was dead and he was not going to come back. Good person. Went to entered the Marine Corps because he wanted to get an education when he got out on a free ride, and he wanted to represent America. Now, I am an American. I am a true American. I believe in what I'm standing for. I serve on this board because I want to make a difference in the community just like every other person on this board does. I also believe that Robert Sadler didn't die for nothing. He died supporting America. When this article came up, Mr. Rollison brought this up, it came up, and I immediately, to show how nonpartisan this thing is, I called my board members, called 3 of them, and I said, I'm not going to vote for a sanctuary thing. It ain't going to happen. I'm not going to vote for that. But I will support exactly what Mr. Odom came up with. So to say that this is a nonpartisan, this is a partisan board, and Republicans and Democrats is a bunch of bull. This is the best scenario that I think in my mind to support what my values are. Is I believe in the Constitution of the United States. I believe in the Bill of Rights. I believe in the Second Amendment. Is it perfect? I don't know. Is it going to change in years to come? Are legislators who it's what their job is to make those decisions at a higher level going to change that? I don't know. But today, I'm going to vote and I agree with this motion. I'm going to support it, and I stand by it. And I hope you understand why I do. I mean, I do it because I care, and I care about people. I care about the ones who are for this, and I care about the ones that are against it, because I represent everyone, just like everybody on this board does, 35,000 people in Dare County, and we all know you care. And it's a difficult decision. That's all I got.
Thank you very much, Commissioner Bateman. Commissioner Couch.
I'm sympathetic to what I heard here today with people who are against this resolution. It is divisive. It is controversial. It's an election season, folks. Everything's over the top. Expect everything. Be surprised by nothing. It's February 3rd. We got 10 months of absolute insanity coming down the highway here. Nevertheless, I'm looking at this resolution. It was presented to us on the third attempt here. It's been watered down, made about as bland as it can be. I think a case can probably be made that it's actually consistent with common sense gun laws. This is going to be about as win-win as we can do with this. It came before this board. We can't make it go away. This ain't a fun job. You know what? I got a living to make. I got kids to raise. But here it is. I'm going to support it. A lot of effort went into it. It's the best I got.
Thank you, Commissioner Couch. Commissioner Vice Chairman Overman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The resolution being presented here today is in support of the Constitution of the United States of America. The entire Constitution, including the Bill of Rights, Amendments 1 through 10. I believe the amendments making up the Bill of Rights exist co-equally and form the basis of all the rights American citizens respect and enjoy with each other. Although some today may argue that one is more important or meaningful than another, the founders of this nation, having recently won independence from tyranny, deemed each amendment vital to the rights and continued freedoms of the people. It is obvious to any observant person that the second of these amendments is under attack. To deny this would be naive. The state of Virginia currently has a number of bills before their legislature that are designed to infringe upon the rights of law-abiding citizens to purchase, sell, or exchange firearms. They also purport to close legal businesses associated with the operation of firearms and safety training. and an outright ban on some firearms, as well as a questionable red flag law, which you heard about a while ago. In January, 20,000 people attended a peaceful rally in Richmond to protest these actions as being unconstitutional. Ultimately, if needed, this will be settled in the courts, as things always are in this country. So this resolution is not a knee-jerk reaction. It is intended to join with 24 other counties in the state to proactively tell our governor and General Assembly that North Carolina is not Virginia, and that we will oppose any attempt to violate the Bill of Rights in general and the Second Amendment in particular. This resolution does not request or state anywhere that Dare County become a sanctuary from the constitutional laws of the land. It does not encourage people to break the law, but conversely encourages everyone to obey all the laws supported by the Constitution. This resolution is just an affirmation of the rights stated in the Constitution. And I urge that we join the other 24 counties in North Carolina reaffirming our support of the Constitution of the United States of America, and particularly the Bill of Rights contained therein. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chairman. Thank you, fellow commissioners. I'd like to just state in my comments that it was pointed out that we're reacting to a Virginia situation, and that is farthest from the truth. In all due respect, out of courtesy to Mr. Rollison, who brought a resolution to us on January the 21st at 5 p.m. and presented a resolution to us to support. We've all looked at it. What our obligation is as a board of commissioners, since I've been on this board and since I've been chair, it's emphatic that our board responds to any and all issues brought before our board. We have done so in the past of every single meeting that we have had. We've done so at public comment periods. We've done so at board meetings, and we have done so at town halls. Every single issue that's brought before us, we have an obligation to respond to, and we will continue to do that as a board. I echo my fellow Commissioner House in that this is not a partisan issue. Let me give you some examples. In the State of the Union, State of the County, that I've done on January the 15th and last evening in Hatteras Island. In 2019, this bipartisan board that's before you today passed 292 unanimous votes in 2019. I, like Commissioner Bateman, I hate guns. I served in the United States Army with an M16. God bless our country and that ability to do that, but I could care less about a gun. I don't want any parts of a gun, but this is not about me. It's about the Second Amendment, and it's about our citizens to be able to own a weapon and bear arms. I took a sworn oath, as Commissioner House reiterated twice in his comments, that, and I'll read it again. I said, when I've been elected, the times that I was elected in Kill Devil Hills and served on that board, and every time that I've been elected to serve on this board, I stated that Robert L. Woodard Sr. do solemnly swear that I will support and maintain the Constitution and laws of the United States and the Constitution and laws of North Carolina, not inconsistent therewith, and that I will faithfully discharge the duties of my office as County Commissioner, so help me God. And I've stated that a number of times in my election. Just as the Vice Chairman has stated just a moment ago, this resolution does not request or state anywhere that Dare County become a sanctuary from the constitutional laws of this land. He also stated in his comments that this resolution is just an affirmation of the rights stated in the Constitution of the United States of America. My friends, we all want to say that perhaps this is maybe partisan, and Commissioner Bateman has already stated that. It's absolutely farthest from the truth. And then you say, some of you say, well, what's the point? I say the point is that we are responding to a citizen in Dare County that brought this to our attention, and we're reacting to it as a board, as we do on every single issue that's brought before us. I say then, why not? I will not, under any circumstance, as long as I sit at this table and serve the citizens of Dare County, violate that oath of office that I took. I will support this resolution as it's presented. Any further comments from my fellow commissioners? Hearing none, then there's a motion on the floor to approve this resolution as presented by Vice Chairman Overman, and it's been seconded by Commissioner Ross. The pleasure of the board. What's the pleasure of the board? Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimously. County Manager.
That brings us to item 11, which is the consent agenda. On the consent agenda, you have the approval of the minutes. You have the intergovernmental ground lease agreement between Dare County and the town of Manteo. You have a resolution in support of the Southern Dare County Channel Maintenance Project and a resolution in support of the Central Dare County Channel Maintenance Project. And you have the advertisement for the 2019 tax year liens.
Move to approve.
There's a motion on the floor by Vice Chairman Over to approve the consent agenda as presented, and it's been seconded by Commissioner House. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Next, you have board appointments. You have the planning board. The terms for David Overton, Michael Barr, and Beth Midget expire this month. All would like to be reappointed. You have applications on file from Kermit Skinner, John Cook, Alan Moran, William Overman Jr., Colleen Schreiber, Gordon Milbrath, John Towler, Ida Howell, and John Head.
Pleasure of the board.
Move to approve Overton, Barr, Midget as reappointments.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor by Commissioner House to approve Overton, Barr, and Midget. Couch, excuse me, I'm sorry. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Bateman and House. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
Next is the Dare County Community Child Protection Team and Child Fatality Prevention Team. Health and Human Services Board voted to recommend that Wendy Furlaw be appointed to the Dare County Community Child Protection Team as a member at large, appointment for the Outer Banks Hospital to replace Anthony Busico.
Move to appoint Wendy Furlow.
There's a motion on the floor by the Vice Chairman to appoint Wendy Furlow. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner House. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
And then your upcoming appointments, you don't have any in March. In April, you have the Mans Harbor Commission, where you have 3 terms that expire. In May, you have the Veterans Advisory Council, which has 2 terms expiring. And in May, you also have the Zoning Board of Adjustments for Dare County, which has 2 terms expiring. That would be your agenda, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, County Manager. That brings us to item 13, Chairman, Commissioners' Business and Managers and Attorneys' Business. And I would like to ask Commissioner Ross if he would start that off today.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just had two quick updates. A reminder, on the 6th, Thursday of this week, at the Hilton Garden Inn at 8 a.m., Representative Bobby Hanig and Senator Bob Steinberg will be there to present a legislative update and state of the region. I look forward to that very much, and I would urge all those interested to please attend. And secondly, on the 20th of this month, Thursday, February 20th, at 11:30 at Jeanette's Pier, the OBX Community Foundation will be holding its annual meeting, which, if you know anything about that group, I think every single one of them is a first ballot shoe-in for sainthood when the time comes for a vote. These are wonderful people and deserving of a deep gratitude and respect for what they do for our community.
It is
Thank
remarkable.
you, sir.
It's remarkable. Thank you, Commissioner Ross. Commissioner Howe?
First and foremost, you know, most of you realize when I do my commissioner comments, I usually do a day in history. What better than to say, happy birthday, Dare County? I mean, that pretty much sums it up. One main thing that I do have, and I want to press it on, and as you know, I'm also on the Oregon Inlet Task Force and also on a subcommittee for our dredge project. And since Commissioner Tobin is not here today, he asked me to forward this off. Last week, we voted at the Oregon Inlet Task Force to approve the final dredge plans for the dredge to be built. That was approved and has now been sent off. The RFPs for the shipbuilders are now in process of going through it. Hopefully that process should take about 4 to 6 weeks. Then once we decide on a shipbuilder after that, most of the shipbuilders we talked to when we were down in Louisiana for the workboat conference, just about all the ones that we talked to said, will they keel? 18 months.
Wow, that's fantastic.
That's fantastic. Build a dredge just like, you know, kind of very similar to the Murden. So we look forward to that. That's been a big, exciting news. It's been something we've been working on for getting the dredge plans now for almost 2 years. So it is moving forward, and it's great news for Dare County, and great news to get some well-deserved year-round relief for Oregon and Hatteras Inlets. I cannot tell you how excited we are about this. So
this is a big deal. This is great. Yeah.
Yes.
That's great news. Commissioner House, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
That's awesome. Vice Chairman Overman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just wanted to remind everyone again about the Escape the Vape programs that are going to be offered in the Dare County schools tomorrow evening at Cape Hatteras Secondary School, and on at First Flight on Wednesday. That's right. And then on Thursday at Manteo Middle School. So if you can make those, it's going to be an extremely good program. The young man who is going to be there, along with his mother, nearly died from vaping. He became addicted to it, and he has a really good testimonial to give regarding that, and hopefully we can deter some kids from getting into something that can be extremely harmful to them health-wise. I'd like to congratulate our service pin recipients. If you took the time to add up the years, there was 140 years of service to Dare County represented by the 6 people that were on that list today.
Well, they almost matched our birthday.
Yeah, almost. Yeah, 10 more years we'd have had it. And our Employee of the Month, Shannon Glazer, who's obviously a first-class individual. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Vice Chairman Overman. I saw that young man and his mother in an interview in the news, Wavy, yesterday, and what a story. So I think he'll have a remarkable effect on these kids. I'm looking forward to this, hearing him. So thank you all for bringing that to Dare.
Absolutely.
Commissioner Bateman?
Yes, sir. Let me see here. Once again, thank you for all the service that the folks who got their pins, and congratulations to them. I also, along with Other individuals from the board attended the Hatteras Island Oyster Roast. A lot of good folks down there, a lot of good oysters. The oysters came from North Carolina, came from Newport, and they were delicious. Great time had by all. The Coastal Studies Federation or Institute cleaned up the highway, and this, I'm gonna throw this out there to y'all. They cleaned up the highway between Wellbone Junction and Wanchese intersection. It's always got trash on it. And it's even been compounded even worse now since we have all those trucks from Ocracoke coming back, constantly picking it up on a daily basis. We used to have a guy named Charlie. Charlie used to wave at everybody, used to smile and work with DOT. He was out there on a daily basis picking up the property. He has since retired, and I do not think that DOT has replaced him. I'm throwing this out there because it's a continued issue. There's always trash out there. It doesn't look good. That's a corridor that everybody comes to the Outer Banks. I'd like to see if we can come up with some kind of solution. Nicole, I can't think of her last name. She called me up from First Flight Middle School, and she's a technology teacher there. And she said, I will do anything I can, try to get some volunteer groups together to try to help the county in order to keep that clean. And she's also volunteers with the Coastal Federation too. But they only do that one time a year, and it's not enough. So I'm throwing it out there to y'all. You know, we need to keep that area clean, and some ideas, if you have any.
Let's get those bags hit people.
Irvin, I think we need to reach out to Alan and DOT and see if we can work something out with those guys. And if Bobby, if you don't mind reaching out to them and see if we can address that on a more regular basis.
Yeah, I will tell you that some of the comments, they said that they came from Dare County trucks. Now, I got the complaint and the first conversation with Nicole about 2 weeks ago, and I followed the trucks. And I followed them across. The guys they're doing a great job. They're always closed, but the trucks that aren't closed are the ones that those big 18-wheelers coming from Ocracoke. That stuff's just thrown in the back. And so it might be a solution is to call Hyde County and see if they can somehow cover those trucks too. You might cut down on some of the problem.
Right.
Let me see, I got Nicole and then employees. And once again, the state of the county last night and Hatteras, great turnout. The chairman, of course, did a great job, and we're doing some good things in Dare County. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Count?
Gentleman passed a couple of weeks ago, a guy named Dennis Scher. He's a longtime resident here, Roanoke Island. I know a lot of you here on the board and the audience are aware of our rich Civil War history. May sound a little over the top, but the beginning of the end of the Civil War occurred here in Dare County. Something as innocuous as the Chickamauga races, the first combined naval and land assault. I could go on with things that occurred here, but we have a front row seat with Civil War history here. And this guy, Dennis, is a buddy of mine, was a passionate Civil War guy. We put on flags over Hatteras down there, which is the 150th, the sesquicentennial of the Civil War in North Carolina, and I'm proud of the fact that the rest of the state of North Carolina was envious of us. It's nice to see the Raleighs and the Charlottes and everybody else when you take the little guys at the end of the street and put on a better presentation than they were capable of with all the money and the resources that they have, compared with the fact that it's a handful of guys here that made this in the forefront here. And Dennis was instrumental, just a nice guy. He was a Vietnam vet. He was a casualty of Agent Orange. He never got down on himself. He had his moments, but he saved those for private. He and I didn't always agree on everything, but we always ended up with a handshake and a laugh. Secondly, a young man, well, he's not young anymore, I ain't either. A guy named Terry Herzing I grew up with. He was just such a good man. and was forever helping people. He was the proverbial guy. I know it sounds like a soundbite. Did he give you the shirt off his back? This guy would. I forgot to bring a picture of him, and I regret it. And he died helping a guy with some pretty serious disabilities load a van onto a trailer to bring up to recycling over to Wanchese, and the cable snapped and crushed him. He never had a chance, but by the grace of God, he's in a better place now. His name was Terry Herzing, Herzing, and that's a whole. On a more positive note, I got to drive the Cape Hatteras Electric Co-op Nissan Leaf, electric Leaf up here, and I still got my driver's license. Those things are zippy. I mean, they'll roll. And, you know, passed by a gas station, and it dawned on me that, you know, yes, you got to charge these things every couple, 300 miles, but it doesn't cost anything to charge. You ain't paying $2.50 a gallon to charge one of those things. And it's just a pretty good experience. I'm very proud of our cooperative down there. They're entirely local. You know, being an old school auto mechanic, you know, you have to convince me that electric technology in terms of automotives, the future of automotive is the way to go. And I think there might be a little something to it. But Joseph, do we have a shot of that thing?
Yeah, he's
Okay.
been flashing it up there while he's been
sorry.
talking.
All right.
How many of those do they have, Dan?
See what kind of attention span I got. They got the one.
Gotcha.
Yeah, okay.
That's pretty cool.
Absolutely.
What is
yeah.
the mileage on it again, Danny, between charges? How
It's
many-
way up there. Oh, I thought you were talking about gas
No,
mileage.
no,
I was being
sorry.
sarcastic.
I meant between,
Yeah, this particular one, if you keep your foot out of the carburetor, oh, it doesn't have a carburetor.
no.
Keep your foot out of the generator.
Yeah, keep your foot out of the
Else-
generator, yeah, keep your foot out of the battery. About 256 miles, I think it is on that one. Some of these Teslas, which are really nice, they're up over 300. I mean, the faster you go, the quicker the battery wears out. But, you know, I'd run over to Harris Teeter this past summer, actually the past couple of summers, and I'd see these guys lined up there, and they're all sleeping in their cars, and I was like, typical. But they're charging their cars.
Charging the car.
Yeah, and now that we've got a couple of these things down in Hatteras, and there's something to it. I would actually, guys, I'm rambling here a little bit, but I'd be honored if you would come out and have your picture taken with me. But I think it would mean a lot to the co-op down there, and I am proud of these guys.
So they have charging stations down there?
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah. The real estate companies have them in on Pamlico Sound, just down from the school. He was the guy out in front on this, and he was getting a lot of business. So now a lot of the B&Bs, you got some Airbnbs that are in there, and I believe the school has one as well. So it's just
They're
interesting.
universal plugins?
Yeah, they're making, the technology is just getting there. We're just getting started. I mean, we just got started on computers, you know, or the PCs we know today 30 years ago. So hopefully in our lifetimes, you know, we'll see where this is down the road. You know, all for change, all for seeing good stuff. It's got a place in the future of automotive, the future of transportation in the United States. But anyway, when we're done, if you'd come outside with me, that'd be great.
Cool. Thank you, Danny.
Thank you.
County manager?
Yes, sir, I have one thing. Our old friend tax redistribution has raised its head again. There's a study committee, the Revenue Laws Committee has been meeting up there. One of the items on their agenda is to look at tax laws, and they're saying that the tax distribution laws are archaic, and anyway, they've begun looking at those. Their first meeting is on February the 12th. I bring that up to you because in the past, we've had our lobbyists up there working for us on that issue. And if we're going to try to get in ahead of the curve, we probably ought to get him involved in that at the early stages now to lay out the facts that we've presented so many times up there before on the impact of that to us. I've talked with our lobbying firm. They're prepared to work for us. Their contract expired when the legislature adjourned, so we have to re-enter that contract. And so I'm asking you today to re-enter that contract. It's on the same terms as before. I think our fee before was $5,000 a month. That would be the same fee they would charge going forward. And I checked with Sally, we have funding in that account that we set aside for lobbying to cover that through the rest of this budget cycle. And then assuming that we put money in the budget, in the next cycle, we'll have it going forward then. So I need approval to move forward with the lobbyist.
Absolutely. There's a motion on the floor by the vice chairman to approve. It's been seconded by Commissioner Bateman. Any further discussion? Hearing none, those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous.
That's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, County Manager. Dorothy, our Public Information Officer, thank you for all of your help last evening.
Yes.
We really had a good turnout in Hatteras, and I think it went well, and I can't thank you enough for all of your hard work. But what do you have for us
The
today?
team effort, so
Yes.
thanks to, I appreciate you thanking me, and I thank the other staff members that were
Right.
there. I don't have any business to bring up.
Well, you don't want to speak about the launch of the 150th? Don't you want to speak about that?
Sure, I'll briefly, the dare150.com site launched officially yesterday. So if you haven't had a chance to look, please do. There are 150 ways to celebrate Dare County, and those extend throughout all of the areas. We are featuring the Island Farm Celebration that'll take place on May 2nd, but we'll be partnering in other ways to celebrate throughout the year. So we'll be adding events. I met with James Ayers from the town of Manteo because we, of course, want to celebrate in some way at Dare Day and feature our history there. So there are going to be a number of events added. And then there's our GIS department worked on a timeline where you can go in and see significant historical events and where that took place and a little information about that. And we're actually going to give people an opportunity to add to that timeline. So we'll be continuing to celebrate and work on it throughout the year. Beth worked on that site and put a lot of time and effort in, so I want to recognize her for her work on pulling all of that together, because it was a lot of work, and we're just excited to be celebrating.
Absolutely. Thank you, Dorothy.
Thank you.
I want us to do a Dare County float in Kelly's parade this year in March, and I want my fellow commissioners to be in the same attire that I was in.
You're on your own, pal. No.
But we need to come up with a flatbed and a theme, and my fellow commissioners ride on that float with
We
us
can
in the parade.
definitely, we'll talk about that, because that is a possibility. And the county will have a different float as well in the parade, and that's for the census.
Census, yeah.
So we've worked on that, and, because that's right about that period of time where folks will start getting their cards, so.
Yeah.
We'll talk about the second.
Okay.
Yeah, if I could add, we've got other parades too, the Hatteras Parade.
Yeah,
We
the
could go
Hatteras,
to Mans
right.
Harbor and everything. We could have some fun with this.
Yeah, we could. I think we could, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Finance Director, Mr. Clausen, do you have anything else for us?
Just real quickly on the capital projects, Health and Human Services, we should have 90% complete plans and drawings by the end of this week. Then COA, we have a meeting with the architect next Wednesday for exterior drawings and update on the demolition schedule, which now we're looking at seeing if the contractor Barnhill can do through their contract. And the overall schedule. And then bids on the animal shelter, Whiting Turner will open them next Tuesday, and our goal is to have a guaranteed maximum price to you the first meeting of March.
Good stuff. Wow. Good deal. Thank you so much. That brings us to the end of our meeting. Our next meeting is February the 18th at 5 p.m. I want a motion to adjourn, but prior to that, Valentine's Day will be 4 days prior to that. So those of you who are listening, happy Valentine's Day. I hope you have a nice Valentine's Day with your significant other. But at this time, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn until February the 18th at 5 p.m.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Commissioner House. It's been seconded by Commissioner Bateman. Those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, like sign. Motion carries unanimous. Thank you.